What's going on, everybody? Cali Death Podcast back once again. Again and again. Every Thursday we're recording it. Every Friday you're seeing it, unless we got an international thing. But either way, every week you're seeing us. Thank you for coming and hanging out again this week. Thanks to the subscribers. Thank you to all the people that are telling your friends, all that shit. Keep spreading that shit, dude. Casey, Joel, and Joseph with me as always, my resident homies. Dude, you guys, I'm fucking super excited for this episode, dude. I just couldn't believe it when we figured out that this was going to go down. We have the fucking legend himself, Derek Roddy, on the show with us today. What's going on, Derek?
Hey, how you doing, man?
We're doing great, dude. Now that you're here with us, dude, this is just like nostalgia and you have your list of musicians that you wish that you have met, and now I get to finally meet you on my show. So it's like it's a super win, dude. And I'm thank you so much for your time, dude. And yeah, dude, Derek Roddy on the fucking Cali Death Podcast, guys.
Thank you, Anthony. That's cool, man. Glad to be here.
Dude.
Yeah, man.
So, Derek, good to see you.
Yeah, awesome.
So
KC, I haven't seen KC actually in person. I haven't seen you since when we were talking about it earlier. When 2006?
Yep.
Damn.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
Where was that
What
at?
was going on for that?
I don't. There's a sonar clinic, I think, in where? San Jose? No.
Yeah, he was doing a drum clinic in San Jose.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was So I went out. It was so sick.
So
we had a good time.
Is it just like the clinic? So you're on stage, people are in the audience, and you're just doing your Derek Roddy thing for a fucking hour or two.
I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that was. It's always different. That's the thing about doing that stuff, especially if you don't have any kind of. I never really went out like having a planned thing for clinics, because I just learned over time you can plan till you're blue in the face, and it's never the same, you know what I mean? So I always kind of let the crowd dictate how it's going to go. And if it goes, it goes. That's cool. If not, whatever, it's fine. So, but that was a good night. I remember that night. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I mean, your drumming is something that is very important and real to a lot of us and a lot of the people that are like us from our generation. I mean, Black Seeds of Vengeance. That was what I wanted to get into tonight for sure. Is one of the most important moments in my early metal self was 15, 16 years old going to, and I've already mentioned it on the show maybe once or twice. I mentioned it when we talked to Dallas too, but Great American Music Hall, Cradle of Filth, Nile, God Forbid, and I can't remember who else was on that bill. But were you drumming that tour? No,
never played drums for Nile live.
Really? Okay.
Oh, wow.
So just recorded that album.
Yeah, that was a fluke. I've known Carl since, and Pete, the original drummer, and Chief for that matter. I mean, we met in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were a South Carolina band. I was in Columbia at the time, and they were Greenville, which is like an hour and a half away. But we were doing shows together, and I remember Nile before they were Nile, when they were Mariah, which is a fucking killer band. Like if you guys look that stuff up, it's really cool. The stuff that Carl was playing then was incredible.
Was it still Egyptian influenced, or was it?
No, not really. It was more of a, I don't know. It had its own theme. Just as Nile.
Could you repeat the band name for me, please? What was the band name again?
Mariah.
Mariah, that like a woman, Mariah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I guess. Yeah, I don't remember.
That's like the first reference that came to my mind.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's spelled a little differently. I can't remember offhand. It's been a long time ago. It's talking about 88, 89. Even earlier, 87,
That'd be crazy to find some demo tapes of that shit, dude.
It's out there. I mean, yeah? I'm sure. And Carl's playing is killer on it.
Sick, dude. That's what I love about the show too. That was those Pete, little tidbits.
Yeah, and that was Pete, too, playing drums. And, Pete had I love that first Nile record because it had its own vibe, and it like the way Pete approached the music in the direction that they were going at the time, I thought was very unique. It was very interesting. And I was surprised that I got even the call. I mean, Carl had hinted around if I would be interested in doing it. And I was like, well, what's going on with Pete? And then Pete told me if I injured myself, I'm not feeling like I could play the stuff. You could come in and maybe record it if we needed you to. And that was like 6 months prior,
Trip.
And I didn't think anything about it. It's the last I thought about it, actually. Then I get a phone call from him. He was like, man, I'm here in the studio trying to do this stuff, and it's killing me. Can you come possibly do drums? So it's like, sure, I guess. I was like, I could be there next week or whatever. I'll listen to the stuff. But no, can you be here tomorrow?
Oh, shit. Wow, dude.
Yeah. So that's how that happened. So I literally put my drums in the car, drove up there, and Dallas and I just sat there and just churned out the riffs. He started with whatever song was first or whatever song we did. I don't even know.
Crazy, dude. So you showed up not even knowing how to play it, and then you got to record it.
None of it. Yeah. I mean, we just went like I said, he's the beginning of whatever the first song is. And then and he showed me this, and then he's like and then it goes into this, and then it does this thing, and I was like, all right, so let's just do like that first four riffs, whatever, that chunk, whatever. And we did it like a few times just to make sure we had it, then we'd record it, then we'd move on, and whole, and it was literally like 17 or 16 hours over the course of 2 days that we sat there and just recorded.
Wow, dude, that's gnarly.
And I listen to it now and I'm like, God damn, man, I could have done so much cool stuff.
That's with everything though, dude. Everything that we do, you'll always, if you ever listen to your shit, you're gonna eventually find some shit that you're like, oh, eventually, but not like 80% of it. You know what I mean? Because I had no idea what I was doing. So I was, I wasn't even from song to song. I didn't know what riff was what was going where. Like, I knew we might be on a new song at some point, but to me it was just like, okay, these parts. You want a drum fill? All right. Okay, you need quads. If you do it all like that, you don't know when a song starts or stops.
Yeah. I mean, it was like just riff after riff after riff, and then eventually, 3 months later, I get this thing in the mail, and I'm listening to it going.
You don't even know how the songs go, really. You're just like,
I felt bad for whoever had to play it. That's what I was thinking.
That's kind of like an actor, and you're only act in your certain chunks of the movie or whatever, and you don't really know what the final things
right be
and you're like, oh shit, okay.
That's kind of like the same way. I mean, Decrepit Births, Anton Begins had Tim Young on it, and he kind of did the same thing.
Exactly.
Put together, and then Casey came along and actually could play it. But when I first heard that, I was like, cool, you're gonna have a sick drum machine your whole life, because I don't know who the fuck's gonna play this.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, sick.
But there are people out there. That's the thing. There's always somebody out there that can do it.
Well, I just wanted to say, just
go for it.
As we're getting started, that I was thinking about it today, and I was like, wow, actually, Derek, you are the first show that I ever saw that totally got me into metal, And
really, where?
Also, at the Whiskey 2000 it was Hate Eternal doing it was I think the first tour from Conquer.
Cannibal?
Yeah, Cannibal, dude. Yeah.
Would have been Cannibal, Diabolic, God Did Wrong.
Yes. At the Whiskey in LA. Yeah, and I was I don't know, 17 or something,
Mm-hmm.
And I was just getting into metal, going Nile's great, and then hearing all these bands and stuff. But you guys, I was just it was my hair just went whoosh, back, it was just holy crap, dude. I remember I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what was that, dude? It was the sickest thing.
And I was in the band literally 2 weeks at that point, or 3 weeks maybe.
Oh, really?
We rehearsed 4 days, and then we took off on tour.
Have you ever had like time to prepare for shit? I mean, so far, both things that we've talked about, you're like, yeah, dude, I have to do it like 3 days later, dude.
It's funny, like I could write a book literally on. I mean, there's been a few things like In Cold Blood. That was over like a 3 or 4 month time period that we wrote stuff, and the mix is not that great, so you can't really hear what's going on with the color of stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you really listen, you can. Yeah, it's like a lot of vocal and things going on. And then the Divine Empire, Redemption. That one also was one that like I knew the vocal lines before I ever recorded drums. So that's kind of what I based it off of at the time. But any other record, Nile, none of the Hater Tunnels, except I Monarch. Mm-hmm. I kind of put my foot down. I was like, man, like King of All Kings, we rushed. It was written between 2 Morbid Angel tours with Pantera, and it the way it was recorded and just there was no time. Like I didn't like if you go back and watch drum cams or whatever from that era and listen to some of those same songs, In Spirit, Power That Be, whatever, even King of All Kings, they have a different vibe about them live because I settled into the songs. And that's something that I didn't have a chance to do like with Nile or with King of All Kings. I Monarch was a different story because I kind of put my foot down and I was like, man, we're not going to write another record like this and just push it out. I want to take time. I want to get to know the songs. I want to hear the vocal patterns and know where I can play and where I can't play, what I can do with you. And, like I was thinking at that time, it wasn't just about, speed is obviously a characteristic of what we do, but I was in a totally different mindset at the time of what I was trying to say on the drum kit, I don't know. So I kind of just said like enough with this. So we actually did pre-production, and it's funny because I have a disc of all of those songs off I Monarch, pre-productions of it. Like stuff that we were doing here in this room. Actually, I've been in the same warehouse for about 21 years now, something like that.
Wow.
So we wrote I Monarch basically right here.
True.
Between here and Tampa, we recorded it in Tampa at our studio at the time. That was like, I always felt when I listened to I Monarch, I'm like, yeah, this is some of the, most creative stuff that I've done for sure. And then outside of that, Serpents Rise, there's some stuff on all the Serpents records that still to this day just crack me up. And that's like one of the, I couldn't do it anywhere else. And as far as that's concerned, but now I'm really excited because I've got actual band members, dude, so I don't have to do everything. And I said to myself, I'm not writing anything. I'm just gonna, and it's weird kind of what we did because I started recording all of our jams just to be able to like hear us back and listen to what we're doing. And, we'd get to the point every night after we jam our stuff that somebody would start playing a riff and I would just jump in, and all of a sudden Glenn is like doing something and our bass player comes in and I'm thinking I need to record this stuff, so I started recording without them knowing about it.
Nice.
So over
That's
like
actually a good way to do it because then they don't
because
be genuine.
It's like completely genuine, right? So when they were gone, after about 3 or 4 jams or whatever, after they were gone, I put together like 8 songs out of all these cool riffs, So
That's
we're in the
awesome.
process of like learning them.
Wow.
And it's all stuff that they've already played, you know what I mean? Like, so it's coming natural, but at the same time, and like none of this stuff really went together when we were doing it. So
and if you didn't record it, then you would lose it probably
and it's gone forever. Yeah.
It's same thing with ideas in general, dude. You got to write them down, dude, because anytime you think, oh, dude, I'll remember that, you don't fucking remember it.
No, and it's like you said, it's a genuine form of writing. Like we're all here, and like I might be playing something that spurs Jose, that spurs Glenn, that spurs Phil, our bass player. And I've got it. It's here, and we can take that and be like, okay, this is what you were doing. This is what you're doing. This is what I was doing. You know,
dude.
Yep. I heard something actually kind of related. That just Carrie, my friend Carrie, showed me this the other day. It was John Tesh.
Yeah.
The performer. He did the he did the NBA and NBC theme. And like, so they told him, hey, can you do this theme for us? And so he got the idea when he was like somewhere, called his answering machine at home and was just like, and did like the whole thing. And like, I guess Carrie showed me the video of like, he still has that tape, and like before he does it live, he like plays it for the audience with his mic to it. It's just like,
dude, so much bragging rights, dude. Like,
that's funny.
A fucking random melody that came to my dome is now at what everybody hears when they. What is it? ESPN?
No, it's NBA. It's like the most famous like sports theme. It's like the NBA on NBC. Like the Bulls.
How does it go?
It goes. You know that song? Yeah, that was like he maybe just fucking hum that. but yeah, no, yeah, capturing those ideas is huge, man. That's if that would have been, the theme would have been completely different if you didn't catch it, So
right, totally, and not only that, but like it's not about who wrote it. Like we all wrote it.
Yeah. Well, once you guys are in the rehearsal studio, it's kind of like a collective mind thing,
This hive mind mentality. Yeah, exactly. And especially like, look, I mean, Serpents has 4 records that have, I mean, you're looking at probably 50 something songs over 4 records. That's all shit that I wrote. Right.
Trip.
So they're playing this stuff. So they kind of have the vibe. They know what they've kind of like over the 2 years that we've been jamming with the guitar players, at least with Jose and Glenn, they've melded themselves into the way that we're all writing together, right? So with the new stuff, it's kind of the same thing, but it's their interpretations of riffs, it's cool. It's like this whole extra added dimension that I've been looking for my whole career, dude. Just you know what I mean? Like, and I finally found the guys. Our bass player is like the absolute shredder. Oh my God. And it's so awesome, like playing, with these guys here. It's just amazing. It's cool.
I'm sure they're pretty stoked to be jamming with you too, man.
Just yeah. I mean, I guess, I mean, it's funny. Like I met one of the guys, Jose, the guitar player, I knew, many years ago because his band was playing here locally, and with his brother, who I also knew. But that was one of those things that I hadn't thought about, since touring days. It's been a long time, and so I had somebody get in touch with me. He contacted me about buying some snakes, which is kind of what I'm doing.
That's actually I was gonna ask you about that because Naveen Copperweiss, that drummer, is an Animal Leaders and stuff. He said that he texted me last night. He's the last time I saw Derek, he gave me a card saying he was selling snakes. So asked me about that. So he actually wanted me to ask you about that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
But that's how we met. Like Jose wanted to buy a pair of black-headed pythons that I had, and after about 4 or 5 times of us getting together and hanging out with snakes and stuff, he said, "Yeah, I was in synapticide with my brother, and I remember, we used to play around town. They hit me like immediately. I was like, dude, what are you doing? We should just get together and jam because It just so happened to be that he's a professional. Like he's working in a field with BMW." Auto, and like he's in a place where he's making good money and he's substantial human being, and anytime that happens to me where somebody that I know is set up and they tell me that they play, I'm always intrigued because I've ran into so many people that are like, oh, I want to go on tour and I want to do this and this town sucks and blah 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 blah, not realizing that if your hometown doesn't love you, nobody's gonna love you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the irony of all of that. Like all of these bands want to run, like I don't get it. Like I watched Hootie and the Blowfish before anybody ever knew who they were. Bank, those guys were making a good living doing what they were doing. They didn't need Atlantic Records to further them through their career. I mean, obviously it helped them in the long run, but they were doing just fine. I mean, they were They had a great guarantee, and they were playing all up and down the East Coast at frat parties, all everywhere. You know, they were doing well for a band that nobody had ever heard of. They were doing great.
Yeah,
but that's what it takes. I mean, when you look at Van Halen, like nobody knew who Van Halen was anywhere else, but their hometown did. Their hometown had 1,000 people showing up.
Yeah.
You know, that's what got them noticed, not running out on tour and going and playing all over America for 35 or 40 people a night. You know, not having a fan base or anybody not knowing what you're doing, you know. So that was like a curriculum for me to find guys that were professional that weren't looking for that, right? To find guys that were perfectly fine, like making their great money, what they were doing, and coming up here and playing some music and having a couple beers or whatever and rocking out and creating good music. So it took me a long time to find that, man. I mean, that cannot go understated how important that is, I think, for the longevity of music. Like guys that aren't relying on it, you know, because out of that comes originality and heart. And there's something that like I'm not hearing even on recordings nowadays. It's like the same snare drum sample. It's the same guitar plug-in. It's getting to the point. Like,
so you talking about how hard it is to find a setup like that with a bunch of dudes that are in it for the same, catching that same wavelength with you, and finally finding, you know, dudes that are down to do that. Now, take us back to before all that shit. I want to know about what you were doing as a child when you decided to start playing drums, or even if that wasn't your first instrument, like what instrument you started with, or when music became important to you. That's where we want to start.
I don't remember when it wasn't, to be honest. I mean, one of the first like memories I have of music, I remember being little, like really little. And like, I don't know if I was dancing to maybe Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa, or maybe it might have even been Elvis. You know, there was all types of music in my family. And I think I was telling you guys earlier, my dad had a country song on Billboard in the early 80s.
True.
It kind of happened by accident. And I remember my dad saying even then, like, I'm not doing anything with music because there's no money in it. And that kind of always stuck with me, you know, and that was like, you know, I was 12, 11, 13, like somewhere in there. And I'm playing and I'm starting to listen to Maiden and Twisted Sister and Motley Crue, Quiet Riot, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Listening to that stuff early on, and I'm hearing that there's no money in it, but I'm seeing the advent of MTV and all this stuff, you know, and seeing what's going on. And the one thing that I took away from it, because I was already told that money's not in it from somebody that was doing it, because the guy that picked up his song had several different hits in the country world or whatever. And my dad got some royalties from it, but it wasn't like, you know, anything that he was going to.
So he was just the writer of the song, and then
right,
okay.
Exactly. Writer, producer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you know, I kind of grew up with that attitude. So for me, it was all about just playing music because I like music. You know.
Yep.
And you know, that's kind of been my outlook the whole time. Even with Hate Eternal and all the other bands, I never wanted to get into a situation to where it became about money. But when I started losing money, that was when I drew the line, you know.
Yeah.
We could be making better decisions, and, you know, that probably wouldn't be losing us money. And I just felt like I was in a ship that was going down eventually. And I just got on my lifeboat and floated away.
Yeah. So at 13, you said you started playing at that time? Jamming around?
I was playing earlier. I was playing, my dad got my first kit when I was 5, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
And then from like 5 to 8, I played Kiss Records and Donna Summers and Allman Brothers and let's see, Kansas and Boston, Mahavishna even.
Okay.
There was all type of, there was all. My brother's 9 years older than me, so he brought Black Sabbath and Kiss and Alice Cooper, Lucifer's Friend.
Started bringing you to the dark side.
Yeah. He brought all of that stuff into the household, but mom and dad at an early age, was always music. Everything from Elvis to Return to Forever, Chick Corea, like Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, Zappa. So, there was a musical household anyway. So I grew up with kind of all of that. So I never really had and obviously there was no death metal. That didn't happen until.
But that's still already a wide variety of different styles of music that are getting tossed around in that house. So
yeah, but that was every kid in that age in the 70s. That's the thing. Like, kid, it's funny. I laugh about this all the time with my wife because we were talking earlier about the value of music, right? So let's just say, like in my time period, right? And let's just say in 1988, where I was in high school and I had my own job and I was making my own money. So let's say for that whole year that I spent $1,000 on music, buying Altars of Madness, buying Harmony Corruption, well, that wasn't out, but buying whatever it was, Merciful Fate, Iron Maiden, whatever it was that I spent that year. Let's just say it's $1,000. And that's what I bought. And I bought all those records that impacted me for a lifetime, right? You know what kids today are spending $1,000 on?
Cell phones.
Yeah.
Which everything is for free on.
Yeah,
totally.
Which is why I was saying music is worthless, because there's not a band that I can think of that I can't go on YouTube right now and pull up their full record and listen to it for nothing.
Yeah, that's a common theme on the show too, is like how it was all about the physical copy of things and going.
That's the only way you could get it.
Yeah. And the artwork and how much was put into the layout and just the whole package and just being like, oh, it's all perfect for me right here. I can store it properly. Okay. And then I can flip it out and it's all preserved and nice. And actually, have you guys ever heard about CD rot? I didn't even know that was a thing. There's certain CDs
that's been a minute though. Yeah.
There's like a certain plants that their CDs end up like rotting over years and you lose your shit anyways.
Right.
So records are actually still the way to fucking preserve music the best, dude.
Was it a certain like certain
in physical form?
Is it all CDs or was it a certain plant you said?
I'm half remembering the bullshit. I'm half remembering the article because I'm bullshit, but but no, it literally was like, I think it had to do with, a certain plant or whatever. And also, unfortunately, the elements that it's exposed to wherever you live in the world, if you don't fucking store your shit properly, Earth's going to take it anyways, dude.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So, but yeah, going and getting the physical copy, it was just like the whole process of it. And I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what's going to be there. And most of our money on it.
That was but that's the point though. That was the entertainment.
Oh, totally.
Totally. Nowadays, Facebook is entertainment, so they're not spending their money on the music.
I could easily spend 2 hours in an Amoeba or a bigger record store and just flip through everything, dude.
Yeah, and buy a lot of stuff.
Just based.
But at the same time, I'm on YouTube and I'm like getting those related to whatever it was that you're listening to. And a lot of times I've discovered a lot of really cool stuff that I overlooked when I was a kid. Like, wow, how did I overlook this?
We actually, in the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of, went back in time and like combed over the 90s, and Solstice was the main band that popped up. Like, how the fuck did I not know about Solstice? I saw the label, I saw the logo, I just heard that maybe some Florida band members were in it and shit, but I always just wrote it off as some like another generic thrash band or something like that. Yeah. Then I finally do my recomb and I find Solstice and I fall in love, dude. And I'm like, this is a really big missing piece of that Florida scene that I should have known about when I was I'm still into the Florida scene, but like back when like we were finding all that shit, for some reason that band just didn't make it into the pile, and then I fucking end up moving on with my life. But doing those recombs, going back in time and making sure that you got all the important shit for yourself out of, you know, previous time in your life.
I mean, there's so much out there. I recently, a friend of mine on my Facebook feed, you know, this is the things that internet is good for. So somebody on my Facebook feed had posted a video of the band Oblivion from Canada, from like 1990. And I remember the demo that they had out in 89, and they put out a record in 90. And I think in 92, they put out another record that, I mean, there's not a tech band today that is doing anything different than they were doing then. And I say to this day that they're probably one of the best bands that has ever come out of Canada as far as playing thrash and tech kind of thrash.
Write it down, listeners. Oblivion.
There's no blast beats. It's what is it? Fiction of Veracity, I think. But there's if you just type in Oblivion, which is EON at the end, 89, it'll pull up the demo.
Nice.
And, but so they have a couple of really killer releases, but you know, that's besides the point. What I'm saying is it's like there were bands at that time that were doing stuff like really ahead of the game, like over in Europe, Van Buenos End, like in the early 90s.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
You know,
Written in Waters. There's so much going on that album that I mean, even like Mastodon ripped some riff styles off of that band, and they're just a really obscure. That drummer and what is it, Zaral? And
I don't know his real name. I know that he's also in another band named Virus, which you probably know about.
Yeah. And,
he plays guitar and sings.
But Dode Heemsgaard, like that whole. Those Vikodnik and I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names, guys, but you know what the fuck. Get on the internet, use your Googles, guys.
No, great stuff. I love Virus too, man. I mean, Van Buenos and Virus is both. It's like some of my favorite stuff ever. You know,
it's definitely off-putting on not for me personally, but for a lot of people with the vocals, because he did like some like crooning style, almost like.
You know what it reminds me of? And like and it's funny, I made this connection. And my wife loves the shit. She loved it before I did, actually.
Nice.
And she had said to me, she goes, you know what it reminds me of? Because it reminds me of the 50s and Sinatra. Like I can totally see this guy.
It's crooning. That's like that style of what they were doing back then.
You know what I mean?
But it's Norwegian black metal.
Sort of.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of like,
not just like plain old Norwegian black metal.
It's like stoner rock with Sinatra singing.
What the fuck? I can't even put that together in my head.
I know. I shouldn't have said Norwegian black metal. It's Norwegian black metal musicians going to the extreme boundaries of avant-garde and what they.
Well, yeah, Van Buenos End, definitely.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, you're talking about Virus.
I was thinking more of the Virus. It's more of like, you know, like stoner rock with Sinatra singing, you know.
But cool fucking riffs, dude. And
Van Buenos End, that, I mean, the drum stuff on that is, man, that's been some of my favorite shit for decades.
And a lot of those riffs are like black metal translated into a different.
Oh yeah, it's genre. Totally. I mean, you know, all came from Over.
Yep.
And those guys are on a completely different path. And I love all of that stuff. Everything
same drummer.
They've done. Yeah.
First Over was the same drummer.
Yep. But I love Over's new stuff. I mean, I thought that the new stuff they're doing is really cool. You know, it's a perfect example of like musicians that are really.
It's like synth pop now, right? It's like kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they've been through a bunch of different sounds.
Shadows of the Sun was one of my all-time favorite Over records because of the sadness, but the beauty in it too.
Yeah.
And they did a live DVD or Blu-ray. Kind of revolving around Shadows of the Sun. I forget what it was called, but dude,
it was the Norwegian show at the opera. Yeah,
and some great fucking ideas on drums. Like, it's pretty tech in certain parts where you're like, oh, dude.
You can tell they were listening to a lot of Dead Can Dance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
but it's big too. That's the thing.
All of their stuff has been different. Like everything they've done has been kind of off, left field, and it's always been good. It's always been quality stuff. Whether you dig it or not, you can't help but
I'll always be on that
quality.
I'll hail that band for sure. And it's as soon as they were kind of in like the second wave, almost like in between the first and second wave of Norway. But as soon as it got popular, they just said, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not doing black metal anymore. And they immediately like moved into like more weird avant-garde and electronic shit that actually they did soundtracks to movies and shit. There's like 3 different movies they did soundtracks for. Those guys are also like a mad.
There's a really good interview with musicians. There's a really good interview with them online. I'm sure if you type in over interview, it's like a 1 of 2-part series, and they talk about the change that they all personally kind of, well, at least the 2 core members, they talk about the change that they went through just musically over the years. And it talks about outgrowing, the scene, and then outgrowing their friends, even as far as their thinking musically. And it's like a really interesting, interview, I thought, because it really showed like musicians like truly growing.
Yeah.
Just through their words and what they were saying and how they were going about. And they're like, yeah, we still love all of that stuff. We love everything that we've done. We're not trying to change anything, but we're just trying to document how we're growing as people, And, I always kind of thought that like metal music, that was like a given. And I took that for granted because I listen to everything now and I watch everything be so edited and made so perfect. And there's no way that like, if I recorded a record today and I went back in 20 years and recorded another record, that I could look back at it and go, look at my growth, because everything all the way from then until now has been edited to be perfect, And like that, I feel that that's something that's kind of been lost. Is like I can go back to stuff I recorded in 1990 just because we didn't have the capability of editing.
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to myself playing and go, oh my God, like, wow, like
it's
the amount of growth that I've had as a player over this 25 years or whatever, it's that to me is really motivating. And I just don't understand like how musicians today, they're going to miss out on how gratifying that is.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
As a player to be able to go back and know like, oh, well, that's not real. That's not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's literally like
that's a bummer, I think. But hey, I'm not growing up with it. They are, so maybe they're cool with it. And it seems to me that they are.
It is us being like these young kids today. That's exactly what it is. They never experienced what we're talking about until after they've already had the perfection. And then somebody shows them, oh, this is what we were doing before you can make it perfect. So it's like a secondary thing for the newer generations versus like us.
I think it's just a mindset. Like, I'll give you an example. I've been in several different bands over the years that I was trying to get off the ground. And for one reason or another, like just stuff didn't work out. And like, I've noticed with a lot of musicians that are under the age of, let's say, 30, right? They see, especially guitar players, they seem to not be able to live with what they've put down as a representation of their playing. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is like recording something, right? I always get like, oh man, I could do that so much better. Okay, cool. So let's do it again. And we do it. And it's like, okay, all right, good, whatever. And then like a few weeks later, oh man, I could do that so much better. Alt delete.
Yeah.
Alt delete. Alt delete. And then that turns into weeks, which turns into months, which turns into, I'm not happy with that solo. Oh, I'm not happy with that one, because they know that they can go back and edit it and make it perfect or make it to be something they're not. And that's what bothers me about it today. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just me recording local bands and watching what guys expect of me as a engineer, It's like, I'm not here to make you into something you're not. I'm here to accurately represent what you are. Mm-hmm. And obviously that doesn't get me a lot of work.
Instagram models and filters.
Because that doesn't give me a lot of work.
I'm gonna make myself something that I'm actually not to get the likes and the,
which means
points,
nothing.
Which means nothing.
So Derek,
I don't know. It's weird. It's like I don't understand it. I mean, and God bless you if you do, and that's your whole world, and that's what matters to you. That's perfectly fine. I'm not criticizing it.
It's obvious that people want to hear the perfection too, because everybody's kind of pleasing, the fans as well too. So it's not just the artists, it's also the fans wanting this perfect thing, but we're human, guys. We're so imperfect. Like,
yeah.
The representation of us accurately is actually just fucking get in there and do your best.
Well, I used to listen to records and if you really, I'll give you a good example. Go back and listen to Blessed Are the Sick in your headphones and really listen, right? And listen to a song and just focus on the left side, and listen to the same song and just focus on the right side. And there's so much stuff that you can hear, there's certain riffs that you can hear the strings catching on Trey's rings. There's things you can hear during stops. You can hear the strings resonating in the guitar. Nowadays, all of that shit is edited out. If there's a space where guitars aren't playing, I watch engineers all the time just go, whoop, they take that space, boom, delete, gone, to make a clean bang.
Yep, dead stop.
And there's nothing there, but. When I'm listening to those old records, I'm hearing all of this stuff that matters. It fucking matters, man. I don't care what anybody says. And that's why music that was created back then is worth stuff. Like we were talking about earlier. It's none of this music today is worth anything, I mean, and I think that's a big component of why, because it's just been made so perfect that people don't identify with it anymore.
Yeah.
Totally, dude. Anyway, hey, y'all come up with something. This water's going through me. I got to go pee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it.
It's all good.
Go
for it.
Yeah.
Come up with something.
I'll be right back.
Yeah,
we can come up with plenty. Even if it's not worth it, we can come up with plenty.
I just want to imagine that I'm playing Derek's drum set right now.
I know.
For all the audio listeners, it's right.
I'm gonna give a shout out.
I've never seen Derek Roddy set from this angle right now, dude.
I know, that's sick. It's super
beautiful. An angle from basically the.
Can you switch it to him manually real quick so they can see it?
What?
Like the screen to where it'll show just his kit.
Oh yeah, but he has to make sound for it to stay on it. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Either way,
but I wanted to give a real quick shout out because Saturday we're all. I mean, Joseph, are you going to the Ontogeny show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ontogeny and Cartilage are playing. Nate, who's been on the podcast many times from Ontogeny, they're playing the Parkside in San Francisco on Saturday. So that will be the 25th.
The with 2 E's. The with 2 E's. I'm sure.
Yeah. The Parkside. Yeah. It's in San Francisco. It's a tiny little venue, and it's pretty legendary. But anyways, yeah, if you're anywhere within a 3-hour radius.
And here's a super fun fact: Joseph and I will physically hug for the first time at that show.
Possibly.
All you fucking listeners that have been here from the beginning. I will now physically be in the professor's fucking zone, dude.
Have you not ever met the professor in person?
Not that I remember, because he was coming in just to take lessons from you. I don't know if I would have ever been there while you were taking lessons,
Joel, do you want to go to that show together? Drive up? How are you getting there?
Possibly. I have a situation. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I think you might be
figure it out.
Yeah. Totally. I'm getting a hotel room though, too.
Oh, sick. Well, we'll see.
What's up, Derek?
Welcome back.
Now I gotta go.
Thank you.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Derek,
I know, dude. I've been through this today.
That's a good thing with the water, man. That's I mean, I get on those benders where I'm making sure to drink a certain amount of water every day, and I do notice how much better it makes me feel just as a human being. I feel throughout the day I can think clearer, and it really helps a lot. I mean, besides hitting the bathroom 45 times a day, but that's the only thing.
I mean, but look, if that's what I got to deal with just to stay, lubricated and feeling good. I mean, I'm starting on a second one right now.
Damn.
Nice.
I mean, and I was playing today too. I seem to drink a lot of water when I play, especially when I have the guys over.
Oh yeah, did you guys practice today?
For sure.
Jose came over and we were kind of working on a song that's been a thorn in our side, a new one. It's been a thorn in everybody's side. It's kind of ridiculous.
Trying to get through it and figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. It's so, no sense in it.
Going back to that, what you're talking about with the editing and stuff. So I was randomly just looking because I'm, obviously, I know a ton about you, but I didn't know it was Derek on the Wikipedia page. I just looked today. It said Derek One Take Roddy. So that was that like, is that, so one, is that like an actual nickname that you use? And two, did you do that in most of your recordings, like with bands, like with like Hate Eternal and stuff? Was it one take that you were running through?
Yeah. It's funny. It's not anything that I came up with. I guess who actually made it popular was Eric.
Yep.
Rutan. So, but I've kind of been called that my whole life. I mean, it was just like, it's like, when people, like my name's Derek Roddy, so people kind of call me D-Rod, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of something that people have done everywhere, all over the world, D-Rod, whatever, I think One Take was kind of that same thing for people that have ever recorded with me, because I could just kind of, I would rehearse stuff to the point to where I would just record it and it was good. There was no sense in trying to punch in or whatever, so.
I think you slowly screwed over our good friend Jade that was in Hate Eternal for a while, because he was brand new into the band when we toured with them with like Black Dahlia, Hate Eternal, and 3 Inches of Blood or something like that.
Right.
But
yeah.
Jade had just joined the band and just recorded an album, but he was still like feeling the pressure from that. Derek or Eric was like, you got to do it one take, man. So he was telling me like some of those songs were literally the 60th try when he'd get it, like to the point where like,
see, that wasn't
edits.
Yeah. And I mean, that's cool, but that wasn't me. Like that
was your drumming probably that made him do
it. I mean, for example, In Cold Blood, like, all right, so I guess anybody going to Moore Sound at that point in time in their, history or been playing would have been pretty nerve-wracking. For me, it wasn't all that bad because I grew up in the studio. Like I was talking about my dad earlier. Mm-hmm. I was with him when I was in my, 10, 11 years old, watching him in a studio record this song that eventually got put out by somebody else or whatever. So watching all this take place. And then my buddy Bob Moore, who has Sound Lab Studios that recorded all the Nile stuff. They're like, I would watch him. Me and him built 2 or 3 studios from the ground up for the most part. And, I'm very familiar with the studio environment, I guess, mm-hmm. So it doesn't intimidate me. Like that red light is like, for me, it's like, yeah, it's on. It's not like, I hear a lot of guys say all the time, oh man, red light syndrome, like once the red light comes on, you fucking up. It's like, that's not me.
Get the deer in headlights with the red light.
Yeah. That's not me. Like I seem to perform better that way, So I just grew up in that environment. So when we did In Cold Blood, that was interesting because I packed my drums, I put it in my car, we drove over to Moore Sound, set up, and we started getting tones together. I remember Scott from Ass Suck was an engineer, and Steve, sorry. And he was an engineer, and Scott Burns was producing it, right? So he put all the mics on, and we started getting tones together, and Scott came in after, everything was pretty much mic'd and ready to go. And he was like, all right, so you guys like maybe just run through a song and let's see what, for tomorrow we'll be ready to go. Right. So we ran through one song, we ran through another song, another, took a break. Hey, I don't know what Scott used for an excuse. Hey, let's you guys just we'll get it. Since you played so many songs, let's get a demo of what you guys have already done. Okay, cool. What haven't we played? Oh, we haven't played this. All right, we busted out, blah, 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 blah. Bam, drums done. I mean, it was like 3.5 hours. You know what I mean?
Fuck, dude.
And and then it wasn't even we listened back to it and we're like, Yeah, really? All right. And I said, yeah, that's cool. Let's just keep them. And those were all like first take. Just if you were to come into your rehearsal room and set up and jam through your songs, that's what In Cold Blood was. I mean, it was just that. It was like we just ran through the songs. And then, of course, Phil and JP came back and they laid their tracks over the top of the drums. But that was just me and Phil. Like, we thought we were getting tones. Meanwhile, Scott was, and we did that on 2-inch tape too. So Scott was rolling tape the whole time, changing tapes over. We didn't even know.
Smart man, dude.
Kind of funny.
That's why he's fucking Scott Burns. Dude.
Exactly. I think that's how he captured a lot of stuff. I don't think like these guys knew that they were actually recording.
Well, that just reminded me now. This is what you're doing with the Serpents Rise guys. You're taking that Scott Burns approach, and you're just trying to capture the magic without even the magicians realizing that they're making it.
That's kind of the idea. Yeah,
that's super fucking cool, dude. I fucking love that. I'm really a proponent of like the metaphor of us like as satellites and catching ideas and bringing things into existence, as alchemists and whatnot.
I mean, just even with thought, I mean, there's a lot you can do with just thought alone. If you see yourself doing something and if you think it enough, eventually life will kind of work its way out to where that becomes reality. If you're putting the right energy into it.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree with
an honest energy into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of things in life that's happened to me. Just like, oh my God, maybe one day I could do something. But you really want it though. You have like a real want for it, and somehow you catch yourself, 3 or 4 years later, like I'm doing the thing I was saying I could never do, and like it kind of just like you said, life and the universe kind of just.
That's why they say put it out there, dude. Put it out there, and enough
working out.
Back.
Yeah, right. So many different facets of life. It's not just all the things.
It applies to everything. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Super cool. So that was like, oh, go for it, Joseph. Sorry.
I was going to say, so I listened to In Cold Blood for the first time today, just like an hour and a half ago.
That's so funny.
And
he's only 30, dude. Remember? He's
love it.
And it was a very fun listen, and it's cool to hear that it was done in that kind of way. I was just curious at that point in your career, like what was your inspiration on drums, and like what were you going for with Malevolent Creation and trying to push that sound that you were pushing at the time? What was the mindset going into that?
I'll take you back a few years actually. So in high school, as we were talking about before, I grew up in a very musical household. So I was familiar with Steve Gadd and Tony Williams and Elvin Jones. And I mean, like the list goes on. And Vinny Vinny was just starting to come onto the scene. Terry Bozzio with Frank Zappa. So I was exposed. Steve Smith, Journey. So I was exposed to a lot of these players as I was growing up. So when I got my own band together, I grew up playing with my brother and my cousin when I was young, like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. I was playing in clubs.
What'd your brother play?
My brother played guitar. He's 9 years older. My cousin played bass. He's 6 years old. So when they were in their teens, I was still young, but I would get into clubs and things and be able to play with them. And not only that, when I was real young, we did like my mom's garden club meetings, and like community functions at the clubhouse, that kind of stuff. Just playing cover songs. So I was familiar with playing from a young age. And then obviously, discovered Slayer, Metallica too, somewhat, but like Dark Angel and Slayer, I was more attracted to like the real heavy stuff. Like anytime I heard a drummer, like, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Oblivion, that demo from '89's got some of the fastest double bass, probably the fastest double bass, acoustic double bass with microphones that existed up until probably 1993 when Covenant came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta check that out.
It's only 1 or 2 sections on the whole record, but it's like, whoa, so I remember listening to that and then, obviously Angel of Death, and then hearing Terrorizer and Napalm Death and Wolf Angel. So I immediately went down that road. So those were like my influences. But because I was influenced on the other side of things, like listening to Tony Williams, I kind of had this, like, almost, I don't want to say fusion, kind of flair in my playing. But that was kind of where I was going, you know, kind of fusing the two together. And then I heard Human.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh,
That's
damn.
a game
like,
changer, dude.
Yeah. And it was for me because I was kind of doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, oh, shit. That was going to,
so
that
like,
was,
fuck, dude.
Yeah, that was going to be
you
my thing.
You had more of an original thing going, and then you realized
that was going to be my theme. You know, because I already had the background from Zappa to, you know, Miles Davis and the influence of that whole thing in my family. So, and it kind of made me mad to where I just went the opposite direction. I said, you know what? All right. So that's happening. I'm not hearing somebody just doing nothing but blast and double bass. I mean, for 3 or 4 minutes of time, I wasn't hearing anybody. And like Morbid Angel, Pete he was the closest at the time, you know, but I'm talking 1991. You know, like we're going back a little bit. So at that time period, I just thought to myself, like, that's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to out endurance everybody. You know, that's because I was, even at that, I was trying to find my voice, you know, and I thought that I had found it. I thought that I was like, okay, this is something I'm doing that I'm not hearing anybody else doing. And then I get this record. It was like it was even a pre-production for Relativity. I was on this mailing list, and we got shit like in the mail. Remember, like cassette tapes,
tape trading and shit.
Yeah, tape trading. And somebody that worked at Relativity like snuck this thing out and sent it to me or whatever. And I remember listening to it, being like, yeah, like, and loving every minute of it, going, man, this is so killer. This is exactly what I was thinking in my mind, exactly how I would have done it, how I was playing at the time, you know.
It's like a comedian going to a show, and then the comedian
using the same jokes,
has like the same premise, some same fucking tags in it and shit, and you're like, fuck, dude.
But you look at Steve Flynn too. Look at Steve from Atheist. Like, he was doing some really whacked out. He was even like on another level.
I still think he's on another level, dude. I don't think there's another drummer from that era that really has that kind of style. He's very angular, right? He's got these very sharp corners to his playing. Or like you listen to Dave Weckl or even Sean, like had this really smooth, like everything was rounded, right? But you listen to Steve and everything's very angular. It's very pointy, like it's playing in school, like how. And that's the beauty of like what I don't get anymore. Like we start going back to all the editing and sound replacement. Like I'm not hearing the way somebody plays a drum. You know, like, and I know this is, I mean, you could probably still hear this because it's just one drum, but like, so you take a drum like a 10-inch tom, right? And you say to yourself, okay, well, what sound am I looking for, right? That all depends on how you play the drum. So there's a million ways to play a 10-inch tom, right? So I'll give you 2 ways. Okay, here's one way, right?
Okay, deadening it.
Right? Here's another way.
Yeah. Zoom still cuts it out, but I know what you're saying. You leave it open and let it ring out and give the full
resonance. Yeah.
So that's where your character is at. So like when in the old days, like I could listen to a record and I could hear, the touch. It came through, and like I'm not getting that anymore. And that's so disappointing, man, because I looked so forward to that when I picked up records when I was younger. Like
I'm always thinking metaphors, dude. And like, if it was a language, it's like, you know, how you're from one country, you speak all the same language, but there's different dialects. It's like, let's wipe out all the dialects. Let's just like make it to where it all sounds like it comes from the same place, when really it was the dialects. You're
saying that editing is morphing the dialects together.
Totally. Editing it like the straight edges versus the curved edges, like he was saying with Sean and Steve. That you can't really find that in an edited guy who's playing
it's all put on the
but
grid.
Triggered drums
and I feel like the drummer of a band back in the day would shape the sound of the rest of the band. Like
of
Atheists,
course,
they would have those passages that would like go a little past the four, but not enough to be like another eighth note. It was like in between or something. Like Metallica on Master of Puppets, that Metallica riff is like a classic example of that too. It falls in between a 16th or whatever. So like the drummers would shape that sound, and Steve and Atheist was really good at doing that. So yeah, totally.
You guys have seen recently, within the last year, they have put up drum cam footage of him recording all of the stuff on Unquestionable Presence.
I love that stuff. It's so cool to see coming out.
Man,
that's like one of my favorite albums, dude.
And and Lee from Monstrosity. There's also video of him recording all of that stuff from the day in Monstrosity, and he's always been one of my favorite players too. I love the way Lee phrases drum stuff, man. He's very I don't even want to use the word underrated, because he could never be, like overrated in my book. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the dude, just the phrasing and how he played, the placement of everything, and just the overall, like, again, just a very smooth player, some of that stuff is just so good. I love it.
In Dark Purity is like literally, to me, that's like just one of the best, like just straight ahead death metal albums. Just like in the pocket, just fucking makes you headbang. It makes you do all the things, and it's like just has a smoothness to it, and it gets overlooked a lot too. Is one thing. Whenever I get the opportunity to show that to people, because it really formed me as a kid. When I found In Dark Purity, I was like, Jesus, like it's like some of the catchiest, but fucking brutal and sick and headbanging.
Fucking
like
brutal, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, man, there's so many good drummers that shaped me over the years. Everybody from Ventor to Lombardo to Hoagland.
Nice.
I mean, there's so many guys. It's uncommon. And it's funny because KC and I re-hooked up with a drummer friend of mine from South Carolina, and I got to give shouts out to Jason Summers, because like he was another great drummer in the area. Like it's weird, because when I grew up, I could walk out my front door like any Thursday or any Sunday and hear these guys that were like 5 to 8 years older than me, but they had a band like a mile away from my house in a neighborhood, and they practiced in their garage, and I could hear them, and
wow, dude.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to grow up around, a bunch of amazing local drummers. There was Ken and Kevin Williams. There was Jason Summers, who Casey now knows, Jason Moore, Clint Lee, Greg Klein, and all these guys are pretty much all professionals now, doing whatever they're doing in life. But all really good drummers. Like all of us, and a lot of us were we were in the drum line together in high school, like a lot of these guys. And it was funny because at our high school games and shit, like just the drum line, we'd play Metallica songs.
Nice.
Like between bass drums and snare drums and quads and cymbals and shit, it was like 15 of us or 12 of us,
Yeah.
But the rest of the band would just sit it out while the football team was playing. We were playing Metallica songs and Slayer songs. We even did Napalm Death, You Suffer But Why. Just for like 4 seconds, So we would do that like multiple times a game. But I grew up around a bunch of people that were really like amazing players, So
yeah, you were mentioning that pre-pod, how you were involved in band and all this different stuff, and you're talking about that one project too. I want to talk about that again. Were you already doing metal band shit while you were doing that, or was that what kind of moved you into starting to get your own project together in high school?
Yeah, my brother and my cousin and I were playing, and
so that was the first trio right there. That was like the solid first band right there. Your brother and your cousin.
Yeah, and we were doing covers, Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, Kansas, Boston, and Sabbath, and Alice Cooper, and Kiss. So like all the typical stuff of the day. And then once I, got in school really and started meeting other people. So the guy Jason Moore, I was saying that I could hear his band. His brother was my age and playing guitar. So him and I grew up playing together. He's a really, right now, a talented guitar player. He's a professional in another field, but like stupid good guitar
still
player.
Playing. Nice.
Yeah, still rocking, still doing his thing.
Fuck yeah.
And, I was just fortunate enough to do that. And then I started meeting people that were into like Napalm Death, because I was young and I had just discovered like Electro Hippies and Napalm, and, of course, Venom and Celtic Frost and Slayer and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to play like some extreme stuff. And then I started playing with these guys, and we formed the Deboning Method, which was my band all through high school, kind of the thrash stuff. You can look that stuff up online too right now. We got together in 2013 after not seeing each other for 25 years.
Wow.
And if you go online on my YouTube page and look up that stuff on the Deboning Method, that was the first time we had played together in 25 years. And I set up cameras, and I wanted to videotape it. I audio recorded everything, but we actually sounded pretty good. Pretty good. We hadn't played together forever,
I fucking love that.
And we just made a big party. Like, we just made a barbecue outside of, with grill and whatnot. We just spent the whole weekend playing.
You'll never catch me. You'll never catch me playing fucking high school band shit that I was doing, dude. Like a 25-year reunion of Flatline, my new metal band, dude.
Oh man, this stuff was like, it was Creator meets Terrorizer. It was
sick.
And back then it cost a lot of money to record, so we were high school kids.
So Terrorizer, dude, I got to talk about Terrorizer to somebody who experienced it and right around that time. So it's like, I had already been, I was the newer generation that already knew about the fucking blast beats and all that shit. Right. But the first time you heard Pete play, like, that must have been like a whole new way of hearing metal drums, dude. Right?
Here's the thing about that. So at the time I was living in Columbia, Morbid Angel was based in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was an hour and a half away. And they had, at the time, it wasn't a venue at the time, but they lived at this house that eventually somebody bought the property and connected to the house that was next door to it, to that house, and made a venue out of it, kind of thing. So we would go there and see bands, from Atlanta would come and play there. Morbid Angel played there, Nocturnus, like a bunch of bands coming through in the early days. Sick. It's like 87, maybe.
I was 3.
Maybe somewhere in that time period. I mean, we're all in high school, so so I knew about them then, but at the time they had a drummer, Wayne. What was Wayne's last name?
Professor's looking it up.
Yeah, I can't. I can't remember his name. Anyway, and he was a really interesting player. Kind of like that guy Steve from Confessor. Like Steve's got this really interesting way of playing, and Wayne was kind of the same way.
Wayne Hartzell.
Yeah, exactly. Wayne Hartzell. And he was playing some really interesting stuff. So I kind of saw those guys before anybody knew, who they were. Oh, hang on. Got the wife texting me.
Checking in.
Hang on. She's asking me what do I want to eat for dinner.
So what do you? So it's part of the podcast. What are you eating tonight? What's on the menu?
I don't know. That's what she was asking me. Probably going to be maybe some type, maybe tacos or something.
Nice. That's
Tacos
always a go-to.
Good, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, those guys were playing kind of back then, but it wasn't what they turned out to be. It was a completely different thing. So when they moved to Tampa and got Pete, that was a completely different thing. They went from more of a thrash kind of thing to actual death metal.
Yeah.
I still love that first record, man. Altars to me.
Going back to there is like a characteristic, like the Ophidian Eye episode, they're talking about the Icelandic characteristics of music. Well, I mean, maybe just with like death metal, but you can kind of just tell what's out of Florida, dude. At that time, they kind of
there's a couple like offshoots, like it's like, you know, with Canada and stuff too, like Montreal. There's some of the more like avant-garde weird stuff, and then there's some of the straight ahead death metal. But you can overall, I can see what you're saying. I think it almost is like something
listen
we
to
program
David
in
Vincent's vocals, and you'll realize like there was like this kind of like vocal style that was coming out of Florida.
Yeah, there was maybe like a pattern style, but I think almost like, because I think maybe we like added that kind of
might have been Chuck
after
that might have influenced all that.
Because like, well, when you listen to like David Vincent, then you listen to Chris Barnes. Those are completely different styling of vocals. You know what I mean? So I think we just like,
but you got to remember too that they were developed in different parts of the country, and like that's
okay. Yeah.
So now you're talking about like, okay, if you say in death metal, for example, that San Francisco sound, everybody knows. You know, if you say in the grunge community that Seattle sound.
Yeah, that's probably the most prevalent one.
Right. Yeah. But you could even relate it to what we were talking about earlier with Hootie and the Blowfish. If you look at like that whole South Carolina thing between Hootie and the Blowfish and Edward McCain and some of the other guys that came out of there, it's like it's kind of a sound.
Yeah. It's like
and that comes. See, this is another thing that I think is like people do not put enough emphasis on their local things. Like all these bands, again, this is something we said before the podcast when we were talking, but I don't give a hell who you are. If your hometown doesn't love you, nobody else is going to love you. And if you can't get your hometown to love you, then you need to change what you're doing, if that's what you're doing. If you don't care and you're just playing for you, that's one thing. But if you're looking to be successful as a musician, if you can't draw people in your hometown, you don't have a chance anywhere else.
It felt fucking awesome for me to fill out 120 person capacity bar in my hometown, dude, to start off a tour. It was fucking awesome, dude.
You don't have a chance anywhere else unless you can do that.
You literally feel fucking good. You're like, oh, dude, I'm seeing high school homies. Like, what's up, dude? And I'm
dude,
let's
come out and support you.
I mean, you know, I'll use Hootie as an example, but those guys were playing to 1,000 people a night before any of you guys knew who they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They didn't need Atlantic Records. They were doing well. You know, I mean, obviously they saw the bigger picture and they wanted something more from what they were doing, and they knew that they could go there because they had the songs to do it, because that's what they were trying to do. You know,
I don't even think they can perform under that name anymore. I think they have to. I know Darius Rucker did some like solo shit too, but I think now they still have to go out as him because the name has some.
No, they just have not done anything. Those guys, they were smart. Their whole deal was really. They signed that whole deal with Atlantic on their own terms. You know, they did pretty good with that whole thing. I mean, they lost money for the first couple of years, from what I understand, just because they were doing so well anyway. And that's kind of what we go back to when we were talking earlier about Van Halen and Motley Crue. And like these guys were already packing 1,000 people into whiskey before any of us knew who the hell these bands were, you know? And, you know, that's what it takes if you want to become the next legend, you know, doing anything. If you can't do that at home, you don't have a chance.
Well, I think a lot of where maybe you're hearing probably kids and stuff coming up to you and saying like, you know, I just want to hit the road. I want to get out there. You know, with like we were talking about the internet and music flowing through the internet, maybe like there's one, like they have like 10 people that hit them up from fucking San Francisco. They're like, dude, you got to make it out here, man. And they're kind of like, and they kind of get that kind of starry-eyed thing. And look,
like, I get it. I understand the allure to it. I mean, it's really all about escape, because when you become a young adult, like you're faced with a lot of shit. Like you can either stand up and be responsible for yourself, or you can go on tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that takes to do both takes a lot of courage, either way or other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, that's a good point.
You know, it's not an either or thing, but it's all about like the responsibility of taking control over your life, you know?
Yeah. Usually saying a lot of people in those positions that are coming up to you and saying that's probably like their plan G. They're like, well, I can just go on tour and it'll be okay. Like they don't really have the home, like the
you would be surprised how many people that was their plan A.
Yeah.
You have no idea over the years, you know. And again, look, that's cool. If you're young enough, I always say, man, do it. You know, like if you can get out there and do it while you're young enough, go ahead. But if you're 35, 40 years old and that's what you're trying to do as a life, as a means of being able to provide for yourself, I mean, and that's cool too. You know,
it's just way more rough to do it like that.
Some people can survive off of doing that. You know,
yeah, that's actually
if they can. You know,
what my dad told me too. It's like one of the lessons. When you know, I was sitting in a college, like a community college room, and you know, doing like my whatever homework it was. But then I was getting through text. I don't even know if we had text, but I got a word that we're gonna maybe go on tour. And right. I was like, you know, I was paying my community college and doing it myself and all that stuff. But also at the same time, my dad was like, my dad's a musician too, you know, kind of like local bar musician guy that always like never really did it, but wanted to do it kind of thing. And I asked him, I was like, what should I do? And he's like, well, you know, I'm really close with my dad. And he was like, dude, you're fucking 20. He's all, fucking do it. Like right now, do it. Right. Like this is your chance to fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, to give it a shot and see if it's going to be for you. If it's for you, then keep doing it. If it's not, then go back. You have time to come back.
Did your dad ever get opportunities like that when he was 20? Or is he
no.
Okay.
I think he's kind of like a later player. I think he probably started. He was like a mechanic and started. You know, he was like, you know, he had, you know.
But he was already playing when you were born.
Yeah. I don't think so. He might have got into it maybe after as like a hobby when I was born. I have no idea. I actually need to ask him about that. But yeah, I think he basically got into music and was like, this is fucking sick. But he had a full-time job. He was raising me. He's raising, you know, like a family and shit. So like he actually was already having to have the responsibility, and he was always getting involved with, you know, he was already on a second marriage by the time that I came along. His first son came along. So he's like, he basically was just like, just make sure, you know, like he would always give me the woman talks to, was like, make sure it's the one. Like I've made these mistakes and blah, blah, blah. And he's all, I spent a lot of time on those mistakes. They really took a lot of my life away from me. And I think you're in the perfect position right now. Cause he got married at, I think 20 or something. And I was 20. And I was like, he basically was like, just go for it, man. He was like, fucking go for it. Like in my job was like, I had a manager that
we were 21. We were 21 because we were able to get
21. Okay. Yeah, I was 21. But he was like, just fucking, this is your chance. And my manager at my job was like, he was a drummer and was like, dude, well, I'll take you back. Go for it. Like, live the dream, man. Just go. And everyone was just like, everyone was really supportive. And I really had like I don't want to say leeway, but a lot of people behind me going like, fucking just do it, man. Just don't think about it. Just go, you know? So that actually really helped me.
A lot of lessons in that month too, dude. You know, you're like, young definitely. Buck, dude.
Yeah, no, I know. I just didn't, you know, like when there's the stereotypical thing of, remember the documentary of Rush where you're watching Alex Lifeson talk to his parents about how he's going to be a musician. And there's a circle of these, like, they fled, you know, the Germans and stuff, like gnarly, like Jewish family that like went through fucking hardships. And now their son's telling them that they're going to be like a rock star. And they're just like, well, no, the fuck, you're not going to do that. Like, fuck. And like, there's a really, actually, they filmed the conversation with him and his parents when he's a little kid. He's like probably 18 or 19 or something, telling his family that I'm going to go do this. And they're like, you shouldn't do that. Like, that's the worst decision ever, blah, blah. I'm like, you know, he still persevered, obviously. And like, just to go through that hardship on top of it. Like, I was really thankful to not have to go through something where a parent was going like, no, I don't, you know, don't do that, blah, blah.
I got resistance in the beginning before that bloodletting. When we first got that, I got some resistance from Pops because I was already working for him and shit. So he was kind of thinking about the business. But in reality, he saw that when I said, well, if you're not going to give me the time off, I'm quitting. He was like, oh shit. He's
put your chips in. Yep.
Well, I just want to say that I think it's kind of cool that the entire reason that we got to tour in the first place is because of actually the Derek Roddy forum, and on your website that was like a big thing.
Oh my god, I remember.
That's how I met Matt. That's how I got connected with that.
You're saying with Decrepit? But Otis was already going.
Yeah, but I mean that's how we got to tour.
Oh, because Matt hooked up the unique leader.
Yeah, Matt and all everything that happened after. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met Matt through the Derek Roddy forum. And then,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and then he recorded the first Odious.
You're a matchmaker, bro. Made fucking some Cali Death legends up in this bitch.
Yeah. So
that was fun. Like the server got corrupted and we lost like all of that information, all of the stuff from the forum and went down.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah.
I've heard just like myths and legends about that forum. I never checked it out.
That's why circle back to the physical copies of shit, dude.
Right.
Don't get lost in the fucking matrix.
You know,
that was a big deal.
Growing up with the fanzines and stuff, we used to get them in the mail. But I've still got a little file cabinet that has some of that stuff from the 80s.
I still have all my SOD magazines.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
You ever fuck with those SOD magazines? That introduced me to a lot of shit, dude. It was a magazine, underground magazine that actually put in a lot of work and made it like a dope, like it's.
Yeah, it was a good fanzine, like for sure.
Thick paper. Make sure that it will last.
High quality, high gloss.
Yeah.
It's good.
Oh yeah. Totally. So Derek, I want to get into. I know we're jumping all around right now, but I definitely one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the you trying out for Dream Theater and that whole process and how that, because I mean I remember seeing I remember watching that documentary on it, and then they're like going through all the drummers, and then I just see you on there and I'm like, what the fuck, I tried out Derek Roddy, like I didn't even know any idea about that.
That happened with me too. I was like visiting my old drum teacher in San Diego, and he was like, check it out, man, and he put it on and stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, Derek Roddy's on there, what the fuck?
It's like
I thought you were about to say you were trying out for Dream Theater. I was like, that happened to you too, dude?
That's
tried out for Dream Theater and I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
that's funny.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that whole process going in, getting the call, all that thing.
It's really kind of a long, convoluted story. I'll make it as short as I can. My wife and I were going up to South Carolina to see my folks and take a week or two off, just work and whatever, grinding. And we're about halfway up there at the trip, and my phone starts ringing, and it's like, a couple drummers I know. I said, all right, I'll call them back. And then more calls start coming in, and more calls start coming in, more calls start coming in. It's like drummers I haven't heard from in years, decades, and a few other, random people I talk to all the time. And after about literally the 50th time my phone rang, I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I pulled over, we took a break, and I started listening to my messages. And every fucking single one of them was, dude, did you hear Mike Portnoy quit Dream Theater? Dude, do you know anybody in that circle of people that I can get an audition?
Been practicing for 3 days straight.
Yeah. Literally, it was like within 20 minutes that Mike had put up, on Facebook, and immediately my phone starts ringing. And I'm like, what the, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, that's the weirdest thing. Why would people be calling me? Like, I would understand, with the modern drummer connection and kind of like the drum clinic world, but I've met Mike a handful of times, but I've never met any of those other guys, right? Maybe in just passing or whatever. So, and I've never really been a huge Dream Theater fan. I'm aware of them just through Mike's instructional videos and working at a drum shop pretty much my entire adult life, with working and whatnot. So very familiar with the band or whatever, but didn't own any of their stuff, and not a fan, so to speak. Not that I didn't like it. I just, I was probably busy listening to Fate's Warning or something.
Yeah. It wasn't your cup, exact cup of tea.
Yeah. So anyway, so we laughed about it, and my wife and I were like, we giggled about it, and we're on vacation, and again, my phone next couple of days is ringing, people, trying to contact or whatever, and it came up maybe we drove up on a Saturday, and on a Wednesday we're sitting on the beach or whatever, up with my parents, and my wife looks at me and she says, well, have you thought about what you're going to do when they call you? Yeah. And I looked at her and I laughed. I was like, they're not going to call me. We don't even run in the same circle of people. I don't even know, I don't know anybody in that whole circle other than Mike. And, apparently he's out of the fold. So
But you're fucking Derek Roddy though, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a extreme metal drummer. You know, I mean,
yeah.
As far as like the community knows, you know. So I just thought it was weird that she said that, and like we packed up and we're coming home like the following Saturday. And it's kind of quiet in the car. I don't know what we were thinking about. The phone rings, and it's an unknown number. And then leave a message. And I pick it up, and it was Frank, Dream Theater's management, asking me if I was interested in an audition.
Wow.
Damn.
And I thought that was hilarious. I just played it for Hallie, and I was like, you got to hear this. And she was like, I told you.
Yeah,
like she knew,
she caught that energy way before it actually came, dude.
Yeah.
She saw it coming.
And that was like 3 weeks before it actually happened, I guess. And like, keep in mind, I don't know any Dream Theater stuff. I mean, like I said, just through Mike's DVDs. So they sent me over 3 songs. I learned what I could because I was actually on a clinic tour at the time. So I had like really no time to like really learn the stuff. But I mean, I knew it. And when I played with the guys, we played flawlessly together. It was like we've been playing together a long time. I mean, like I wish there was more of that footage that was out there. It was kind of weird too. I could tell those guys were kind of like deer in headlights without Mike because it was very obvious that Mike was the ringleader of everything in the band beforehand. Because like I was after Mike Mangini. I was the second guy that auditioned on the first day.
Wow.
And we had gotten into the room and like kind of the crew had taken a break to go eat. They had been in with Mike for several hours. It was like midday. I was coming in, getting the drum kit set up, whatever. And I ended up talking to John, the guitarist, for most of the time and playing his rig because I dabble with guitar a little bit too. And I remember like looking at he had at the time like the new Mark V's.
Yeah, he's always been the biggest tone nerd that's like out there.
Yeah, and I was like really geeking out with him or whatever. And we just kind of melted into jamming, and then like other John came in and Jordan came in, and we just started kind of jamming. And before I knew it, we had played through the stuff that I already knew, and we were kind of all jamming, and the crew wasn't there. Nobody had hit record. Other than the cameras that were running full time. So that was the one thing we didn't get any like really good footage of the audition, like really good audio. We had good footage, but we didn't have good audio. There's nobody pressed record on the multi-track stuff. So when you watch it, that's why the audio is messed up. And it was just like, you could tell it was just so relaxed, and like these guys didn't really know what to expect out of all the drummers coming in. You know what I mean? It was like, it was kind of just, everything was kind of up in the air when at least when I did the audition.
God, I mean, that would be actually, I mean, with if like, watching that documentary and all that stuff, watching all the, I mean, obviously you got Virgil Donati, Marco Minim, like all these crazy drummers in there, and Mike Mangini and all the things. But like, I was thinking to myself, like, because I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, they're not going to pick a death metal drummer. They're just going to think they're going to start, like being like, oh, he's too extreme or something. I knew that, like, and then they like interviewed John Petrucci. He's like, yeah, he's really fast with the blah. And I know that's what they weren't looking for. They were like really like looking like, for like the all over the place. But I was thinking to myself, like, if they actually like fucking picked you, I would probably be like way more of a Dream Theater fan than, because I know this, like, as far as like you bring like a more of an aggression to it, though, that I think that like is, because like they're, to me, like I love Dream. I mean, I don't love them, but they're like a really amazing band. They're just musician wise, they're off the charts of musicianship, but they're very, actually what you're talking about with like, they're almost that band that like, you're talking about the edits and stuff. They're that band that like plays so tight that like their sound kind of edited because they're like so tight, but that almost takes like that, I don't know, that free life a little bit out of the music for me. It just feels more like kind of, I don't know how to explain it, just robotic. It feels robotic to me. And I feel like if they were to add you in the band and like give you some like crazy blast beat section or something, do something different with what they were going for, I think
what's funny? What's funny about that is like the one section that they show on that is like a blast beat part. And like, it's funny to me, all the Dream Theater fans are talking about, oh, what's a blast beat doing in Dream Theater? There shouldn't be blast beats. What's this guy doing? He's going to ruin Dream Theater or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, that's what Mike played
Yeah, I know. You're just playing
in the song. Like the old fans didn't know that there was a blast beat there, which tells you the impact of the part that he was trying to play. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I mean, but still, I just thought it was funny. Like the whole thing was, it was a very cool experience, and those guys are the coolest guys. They're like all of those guys are great. The record label stuff was a little bit underhanded because they were completely like upfront with what they were doing as far as having an audition, you know. And yeah, but the whole experience was really great. I mean, those guys are awesome. And honestly, man, playing those songs with them, you know, from what I did know, I mean, you know, it felt great and stuff was cool. You know, it was never anything about that. I pretty much played the songs the way they were recorded. I know Virgil went in and like played his own stuff over some certain things, and it was killer. You know, from some of the footage that I saw, you know, but I know they weren't looking for that. You know?
Yeah.
Dream Theater is one of those bands like Rush. You're not going to go in there and play Tom Sawyer different and gain any respect out of the fans. You know,
No,
Dream Theater is a lot like that.
With the following, the cult following that they have and stuff, to change anything up like that would probably cause an uproar with their, you know, their diehard fans.
Right, unless it was something, you know, minute, and it was really something that added to. I mean, Mangini's doing a great job with some of that, where he's capitalizing on some of the stuff that was there and making it his own, you know, and that's exactly what people are supposed to do.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Mangini's great. Yeah.
No,
I remember Mangini, just like I see, like, because he was one of my best family friends' teacher at Berkeley, so like he was like a big influence on him. He was like, you know, he was super stoked to see him in the band and stuff. But did you ever understand? I mean, I'm not a drummer, so this is coming from a non-drumming perspective. But having his cymbals that high up, is that like a shoulder nightmare for you? I don't understand like how you like.
No, not really. I mean, I mean. It's kind of like Nico with his ride cymbal, you know, like you get to a point where, you know, there's not a lot of tension in holding your arm here, really, if it's got something to rest on, which is the ride. So it's the same kind of vibe. And I understand why Mangini, I mean, look how high my cymbals are from.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
what's your favorite cymbal out of all of those?
That's just because of bleed. I'm trying to get as much of this out of that microphone as possible. So the only way it can happen is if it's further away from it, you know.
Gotcha. So there's more space between, so you don't get caught or something. Or?
Yeah. So Mangini is like that. He's a sound engineers. They love that because they're not spaced. Yeah, you're getting the cymbals away from the toms, and you're getting a really isolated sound live.
That makes more sense to me. Definitely.
Yeah.
I always wondered why he did that. I thought he did it as like a stylistic kind of move.
I'm serious though. I want to know, what's your favorite cymbal? That's all the symbols. I want to know what your favorite is.
Well, I don't really have like a per se a favorite. I mean,
all the drummers around here are shaking their head.
I would say like.
I'm thinking of myself. I'm like, every time I land on that one, I'm like, oh yeah, what's up?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking just as far as the overall feel and sound, I just love a ride cymbal. You know?
Yeah, I actually agree with that, dude.
It's kind of home base, kind of like just comfortable.
Right, home hats and ride, like, to me, are like the foundations. You know, you spend 80% of your time as a drummer there. You know,
I love watching a bop drummer go crazy on just the ride and snare. That's it.
Yeah, ride hat. You know, that's the thing. Like, it's a completely different mindset, that style of music. That's why a lot of rock drummers can't play jazz, and a lot of jazz drummers can't play rock. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different approach to playing. You know.
Definitely.
I totally agree.
Derek, I wanted to ask you, like, so back in the day, it was like a super big deal to us, like when I Monarch came out, and you did that beat with the alternate, like,
is it the 2/1 or was it
2 and 3 or something, like 1 foot?
2/3.
Yeah,
right.
Case used to show this to us. So I remember, like, as a non-drummer, he would show us.
Yeah, but I couldn't do it. I could barely do the feet, but I couldn't do anything else. But explain, like, how you came up with that. Like, that was like the coolest. I was blasting it today in my car, just going like, oh yeah, dude.
So just for the listeners though, just to
talk about what song.
I really like, I remember seeing 1 foot go like this, and 1 foot was going.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a 2/3. Yeah, it's a 2/3.
I'm just laughing at you.
Well, just watching the feet, like I was like, my brain was like, my brain, and then watching you play over it, I'm like, how do you put that on autopilot, or how do you do you just get it? Okay.
Yeah, you get used to the motion. Like I remember seeing Horacio Hernandez, like one of the very first clinics he ever played in America, here in South Florida, and he was a guy that pioneered the whole left foot clave thing and the Latin drumming, right? And I remember there was like a line 25 people deep at the payphone, because cell phones weren't really all that. Like, people did have them, but it wasn't like a thing that everybody had. And I remember like the payphone line outside of Resurrected Drums when he was playing was like 12 or 15 deep of drummers calling people like, you got to come see this guy play drums.
Damn.
I mean, it was nuts, and like he was doing shit. And that always stuck out to me. And then like when I started really like listening to guitar riffs when I was playing blast beats, I was thinking to myself, either between the ride cymbal, like playing patterns and it was all because of like, as we started playing on bigger and bigger stages, like the band members started getting further and further away. And when you're playing fast music, that sucks. Right. So all the ding, 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 the thing I'm kind of known for blasting, that all came out of necessity, just so the people I was playing with could hear one, two, three, four. So if you're 25 feet away from me, at least you still have, because it takes time for that amount of space to travel, So as we started getting on bigger stages, that's how all of that came into play. So outside of that, I was thinking like, wow, it would be cool if I could play some other instrument, between my left foot, because I was playing blast beats with one foot. I just thought it was like the cool textural kind of thing that I could do. And I again, that was me. Remember how I was talking about earlier with Sean, and I was like, I was looking for a voice, and I thought that I had my own voice, and then I heard that, and I had to change directions. That was one of those things where I was like, I'm not hearing anybody do this in the metal world. Let me adapt this into my playing. And that led to a lot of the stuff on I Monarch too.
Yeah.
It's like you're like the Danny Carey of death metal.
A lot of the multi-pedal stuff. And that, by the way, is just single strokes, right? It's just right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. It's just the placement is 2/3. And that was something that, like, I've never been the type of player that would buy Virgil or Marco's book and go through those exercises. I was more of a visual player that saw what they were doing, and I would adapt that to what my body could already do. And that 2/3 thing was natural. Like, I could do that from the moment I sat down. And I guarantee every one of you that's a drummer, if you went to your kit and you put a sound source down there on both sides, you could come up with a pattern that your body can naturally do that you can play time with. And everybody's different, you know what I mean? So it affects us in different ways. But if you put the sound sources there and you just move right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and just move around, you'll find something that your body can naturally lock into.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So that's how that came about. It wasn't that I sat down and was like, oh, I've got this idea. You know what I mean? It was just something that was like, okay, I can do this. And then we wrote shit around it,
Nice.
Yeah.
It's the separation of limbs that always trips me out with drummers, dude. Like, you got 4 different limbs doing 4 different things. And
but that's more of a separation of brain.
But that still trips me out that you guys can separate all them and put them into kind of like an autopilot realm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exact thing, dude.
I think it comes down to like your musical vocabulary and how comfortable you are with different rhythms, say, from different cultures. Right. So like, African rhythms, even though all of that stuff migrated to the islands and into Puerto Rico and stuff and into Cuba, like those rhythms in Cuba and Puerto Rico and Africa are completely different from each other.
Yeah.
So like once you start to understand what those differences are, that's how you break down what you're talking about, Anthony. You know what I mean? Like how can your brain, like if you start listening to stuff that's not just Western contemporary 2/4 music, your brain will get used to hearing like Indian music. There's a lot of 5 and there's a lot of 7. That's their 4/4. Like you play 4/4 for them and they don't get it.
When you were talking about Mahavishnu earlier, John McLaughlin's Shakti project is
Zakir Hussain. Zakir?
Yeah, Zakir,
yeah. Oh, did I say it wrong? Oh, sorry.
No, Shakti is the band, but Zakir Hussain's the tabla player.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So that project broke my head open again after already being into like tech death and all these crazy different time signatures and syncopation and shit. But then I came across that and I was like, oh wait, no, I was still an infant. I was still an infant listening to this, and now here's the real shit. That being outside of time, but in time, and like so much. The counting in that alone just like blows my mind.
And I think Zappa was a big breakdown for a lot of people for that, and my generation at least. Mm-hmm. All right, I got to go to the bathroom again. I'll be right back.
Do it.
Sorry.
Me too, actually. You guys talk about
go for it.
Peeing or something.
We'll talk about peeing. We'll talk about Zappa, dude. What's your favorite Zappa records, guys?
I don't know. I mean, I love Zappa. I used to have a bunch of vinyls, like so many different ones, and like Joe's Garage and different ones. I mean, they're all like so good.
There's so many. I think he did like 80 plus albums before he passed.
I'm like a simple Zappa fan. I just do Hot Rats and Apostrophe, and those are the only two ones that I've really.
Apostrophe is a really fucking good record, though. It's the reason why that one's kind of higher on the list for a lot of people, because there's the variation. And so what is it? Apostrophe, and then there's the album before it or after that is really the only Zappa lineup that stuck together for more than one album. So that shows you what Zappa's like, for one, as a guy he's just one of those dudes that's like, I'm so focused in my craft and I just need to find the best players to do it. And if you can't do it, you're out and I'm finding somebody else. That's what I feel like he was, dude. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's like constantly reinventing.
Well, if you think about 80 plus albums and then not one original, like the same lineup except for 2 records.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah. That's like wild. That's kind of Chuck Schuldiner, but like way gnarlier because he did 80 plus records. Is there a Death lineup that's the same? There isn't.
No. Not album to album, no.
Yeah.
Derek, I wanted to ask about another drum innovation I'm imagining came from you, which is the use of auxiliary snares during blast beats and adding a aux snare as a backbeat during a blast, or a lot of that. Is it right to say that you were innovating a lot of that stuff and coming up with some of that?
That all came about because I was torn, about what to play. Like this, you know what I mean? Like, so like this part would be so cool with the blast beat, but it'd be cool with double bass and like a backbeat, So I was like, well, fuck, why can't I do them both? So it just kind of started there, and I started thinking about ways that I could like incorporate like downbeats and different things. I mean, I didn't get crazy with it, but I mean, I again, it was like Eric and I will, like with Hate Eternal, when I joined the band, it wasn't so much the same with the first record, but when I joined the band, I kind of told him like, I just want to out endurance everybody. And he was familiar with In Cold Blood and my drumming from that I had said to him. So we kind of just said like, it's going to be nothing but blast beats and double bass. And like out of the, 20 something songs that we wrote together, there's only 2 songs that have skank beats and like Slayer beats, so. Everything else is either hauling ass blast or double bass. So it was kind of the thing that we just said, like, all right, this is what we want to achieve. Yeah. And we were trying, like, look, if you can make it through more than 3 or 4 or 5 songs of this, God bless you. Because I mean, we were literally shooting for that. You know what I mean? Like so it was up to me to try to come up with. I was just torn a lot of time. Like, man, this would be so cool with like I know that we said blast beats and double bass, but this would be so cool with just you know. So I was like, all right, well, fuck it. Why can't I do both of those things? You know?
Yeah, that's so cool. I also wanted to ask, in terms of like the equipment and technology at the time, did you feel like you were needing advancements in drum equipment to support the speeds that you were trying to hit? No?
Really? No. I mean,
I've always been curious about that, because today it seems like there's almost like kind of like a war between the pedal companies and the trigger companies and everything. And I was just wondering if like that was...
I just think that's what social media makes it out to be. I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to play the damn thing, you know? So...
Mm-hmm. You still play Axis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the same pedals. The frames on these pedals that I'm playing now are the same ones that I've had since, I think, 1990.
Wow.
Damn.
Jeez. Yeah.
You know? I mean, I travel with a newer set or whatever, but as far as my personal pedals, I've had these things. I've got the carbon footboards. I've had, actually, if I were to show you these things, I'd be embarrassed because they're so bright. But I've had the carbon footboards for about 6 or 8 months now.
Mm.
Like they have a little more of a spring in them. They're not as rigid feeling as the aluminum boards.
Casey's pulling out his pedals. It looks like.
Kind of like it. Yeah.
Thought I saw a pedal flying.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean, I've
ahead,
always,
Derek.
if it's not broke, don't, you know. And then what's funny is that if I wasn't playing fast music, I probably wouldn't even play in Axis. I like a good old 5000 or like a Camco, you know, like I like that kind of vibe on a pedal. But if I wasn't playing fast music, I'd probably just play a DW 5000 single chain.
Yeah.
So Derek, I wanted to ask you,
or Strap. Actually, I like the Strap version. DW 5000s are great. They're super fast.
oh yeah, for sure, the straps.
Yeah.
So Derek, I had my pedals like rebuilt from Axis like years ago, and I like hit them up, and you had to put out your signature pedal, and then also Callias had his pedal, and I had them do like a hybrid of like what you guys innovated on your pedals, and I wanted to ask you and double check. So this curve right here on the board here, they said that was like your design, like instead of it being flat.
It is.
And I love it, and I want to know where that came from, because that's genius.
Well, we were looking for, like, if the regular Axis pedals, where it goes in flat, you know, at a 90 degree.
Right.
The power point of the pedal actually it's literally through the head. Right. So, which is why when you play on those old school ones, it feels like you're going like an inch past where the surface is at. If that makes sense. And honestly, I prefer it when I'm playing. Like right now, the pedals that I have on here they're not mine. They're the original, just regular A-long. Because I'm doing all of this really fast shit with Serpents Rise right now.
So when you're saying that when the hammer hits, it feels like it's behind your foot?
No, it feels like it's through the head.
Okay.
It feels like it's an inch further than it should be.
Into the head.
Into the head, like past the head, you know.
Wow.
With my pedal, the full power fulcrum is right when it hits the head. So it gives you kind of a feel between like the original Axis feel and like a chain drive. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle. So you get a little more like oomph out of it, which is really good. Like when I was doing a lot of clinics, I was playing death metal. I was playing some Serpents Rise stuff, but I was also playing a lot of that Traumedy material, a lot of the Menace material that I did with Mitch from Napalm Death. So I needed a pedal that could do both. And remember a minute ago, as I said, if I wasn't playing fast, I'd be playing on a 5000. My pedal is a good medium between the two, because I could play fast on it and feel comfortable, and I can also play slow on it and feel comfortable.
That's awesome, dude.
It's hard to play on the original, for me at least, on the original Axis pedals and feel like I have control over slower tempos.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Because they're constantly pushing against you because of where the power point is, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So my pedal doesn't really do that as much. So that was the reason why we did that.
I feel like going fast with like is great with this angle. Like I have like no, I mean.
Oh, it is. You can get a lot more. You can get a lot more.
Yeah.
Out of it, and if you've got the strength to do it. But when I'm like cooking, like 250 or 255, 260 up in that range, I like the feel of the regular ones better.
Yeah. Did you ever fuck with this thing? This like crazy Terminator looking thing?
Yep.
I love that thing, dude.
Is that the Calias thing that you're talking about?
I think it is. Oh, they said it was.
No, it's a micro tuner. They had that out before, but George put them on. I have them on mine too. Just because they're a lot easier to adjust. You don't have to crawl under the pedal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's got like a jiggle to it.
I also changed out the longboards back to my old shortboards.
Yeah, dude,
I love it actually.
I was playing on a friend of mine's the other day.
Short. Like how much is different?
Exactly that.
No, I understand, but like, is it like inches or just like an inch?
All right, here's the best way to think about it. The shortboard has a heel plate on the back of it, so it pushes the bearing edge up about 3 inches, where the longboard comes all the way back to the
okay. All right. So it's about another inch and a half or something like that.
Does it not have a heel plate on the longboard?
No, it doesn't.
It does. Angle. So then that means the angle of the foot's totally different too.
A little bit, right? Yeah, it's a little
brought
flatter,
up in the
actually.
back. It's brought up a little bit in the back,
which is why a lot of these guys playing double strokes.
I was about to ask you about double strokes. Was my next question.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm obviously not a drummer and stuff, but I remember like touring in 2008, 9, 10, like around that time, and that was like the new touring with like long stress and stuff like that. That was like the new like technique that everyone like that was trying to be.
Because
and now I see
early in the 20s, I'm not taking over. I just want to say back in the early 20s, it was everybody was like, you got to go heels down. But it seemed like then it changed to like bringing the heel up.
Yeah. I think it's slightly different topics.
I don't know. All right, sick, dude.
We're not.
Thanks, guys.
This is the two non-drummers getting on it.
But double strokes, I suck at them. Derek, what do you think about double strokes?
Yeah, what do you think about doubles, like in general, as far as like technique, and as far as like I know that you're very pure in your craft. So, I mean, when a new technique comes out like that, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's not so much a new technique for the most part. I mean, you can go back to Matt
in death metal. Metal.
He was doing it in the 80s.
Okay,
Mr.
Virgil Donati was like the first guy for it.
But
double bass.
He was way back. But he was doing heel up, like actually playing double strokes.
Doubles,
he was playing each note, whereas nowadays it's
catching this middle
and bouncing the second note.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter if it's it's the same motion, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the difference. Whereas Virgil was actually, if he was playing now he's got to play he's got to actually play those notes. So it's a totally different thing.
Like
a totally different kind of technique.
Bag. Like
sort of, yeah. And it's like you're getting the rebound off of the first stroke, and then you get the second note by it hitting. So you get the first note here, and the second note when it hits the surface up top, right?
Yeah.
So it's got the same kind of idea. It's like a press roll for your feet.
Yeah.
I don't have a preference either way. I think some riffs feel better playing double strokes, and it doesn't matter if it's super fast or even slow. I like playing double strokes at like the 180, 160 range.
Okay.
It's got a different feel,
Yeah.
It feels different than singles. Singles got a more direct kind of feel. I don't really have a preference for it, really. I think that it's an application that's viable for whatever music you're trying to apply to. Now, I mean, if that's all you're doing, then and if it doesn't have any merit as far as why it's there. Like there's a lot of guys that that play really fast, and like I listen from 10 feet away and all I hear is cymbals, so there's a lot of drummers that are out there that are playing fast and they got all this great technique, but they can't project their drum sound more than 10 feet, that at some point it becomes like, what's more important, how you sound to you or how you sound to the audience.
Yep.
Right. So, this is something I learned a long time ago, which is why everybody that most people that you talk to, and something that comes up about me is like, oh, I can tell it's Derek Blasting right away because of the sound. And that's something that I realized a long time ago, that like I wanted to have my own identity. I wanted people to know that it was me.
Well, as a non-drummer, actually, so to that point of not pushing the sound out to the crowd, as a non-drummer, understanding that there's triggers. So like, understanding that there's something still hitting and it's still going to project a sound out there, whether it's.
But that's through a PA. I'm talking about just your natural sound.
Alive.
When I'm standing 10 feet away on the side of the stage.
Yeah, I got
you know what I mean? I'm not hearing the PA. I'm just hearing you as a drummer, as a person. Like, what am I hearing? And it's mostly cymbals. Like no snare drum, no toms, definitely no kick drum. You know what I mean? And that's most everybody that I watch nowadays. And I'm thinking to myself, sorry. So what's the end game?
Yeah.
Is it to sound good to you or to sound good to the audience?
Yeah.
I never really cared about what I sound like, what I sounded like. I always cared, like, for me, because I grew up in the studio, what a microphone hears and what I hear, especially like on a guitar cabinet, for example, are two totally different things.
Totally.
This is why when you listen to a guy that's got a guitar sound in the room and it sounds good, you put the microphone in front of it, it sounds like shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's not understanding that a microphone doesn't hear the way your eardrum hears, and you have to compensate for that. So I grew up my whole life in the recording studio trying to get the most, not the most pure, but the most pure sound that I needed at the time. And that went back to, like, playing blast beats. For me, I slightly choked the stick up a little bit to get a specific sound that's identifiable to me. And then, like, all of my drummer peers tell me, like, dude, I know it's you. Just the snare alone, I know it's you. And I've worked for that.
Listening to the Serpents Rise stuff, I'm gonna be honest and say that I didn't really check that out too much, but in our preparation for this episode, I'm having fucking Derek Roddy on my show. I need to listen to everything that he's done, and it's still fucking you, dude. Like, it is totally you.
So you're talking about rules. The choking the stick, though, because you're saying that gives you more like tightness in the snare. Is what you're talking about? The choking of this, like, it's more like aggressively like hitting the snare.
It's almost like it puts a hat on the note. You know what I mean? It just adds a little bit of. I don't know if you can hear this or not, but like, look on the counter here, right? So So I'm just playing on the counter here. So that's like the stick open with just fingers. Right?
Yeah.
So if I choke it, listen to the sound change.
Zoom knows the sound change because Zoom cut it out. That's a good point, though.
Oh wait, I'll do it lighter. Hang on.
It's still doing it. But that's what's crazy. I mean, we can tell there's a big change in sound because Zoom, it like literally cuts out the frequency because it's trying to like catch a different frequency, and it's completely.
I mean, it goes from like a tuk 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 to a tick 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 tick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's that higher frequency that Zoom cuts out. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, what sound are you going for? So that's kind of always been something that I've thought about. That's always been that's been really important to me.
Stick alone can change the sound of a snare.
The grip of a stick.
That's never really crossed my mind until this conversation right now.
Well, it's like a guitar pick. It's like true. You can.
Wait, shut the fuck up. The way that you guys change the way you hold it changes the way that the guitar sounds.
Of course,
guitar pick. Yeah. It's where your palm is. Where
dude. I'm such a novice right now, dude. It is insane.
Yeah, totally.
No, I mean, that's what, like, when we had Mike Keane from Faceless on, he made a really good point, and I've heard this point made a million times where we're asking about, what pickups are you using? What amps are you using? His trade secret is it's in your hands. It's like Dimebag played a terrible sounding amp, but like if you were to go buy that amp, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? But Dimebag made it sound amazing because that's just the way he played through it in his hands. He makes anything sound good. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things that he said, like,
sound is in you, man. Sound is inside you. And
it sounds like the whole guitar industry is fake then, dude.
That's what's been lost.
97% of the people buying this shit are just trying to find something that'll make them a rock star, when really it's all you.
I mean, kind of. I mean, the like what we're kind of getting at is like, like the gear is definitely like it's like an addiction is getting gear to a lot of people. It's like,
if I got Jordans, I can dunk on you, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's like if you have the little
that's that idea.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that idea. It's like you plump up the little tongue on the little.
What was it that Ted Nugent said? Ted Nugent said something about playing Eddie Van Halen's rig. He said, "Man, I looked so forward to playing Eddie Van Halen's rig, and when I did, I just sounded like Ted Nugent playing Eddie Van Halen's rig." You know, I mean, and that's true. You know, because like I can sit down and play this drum kit, and I'll have somebody else come and play on it, and it sounds nothing. It doesn't sound the same. You know.
Yeah.
And what's weird is you can record it, and it won't even sound the same.
Yeah.
And I pick and choose how I'm going to play. Like if I'm playing a really fast part, and you know, you already know that I'm like choking up the stick to really get it like really staccato, like. And it's the same thing with the toms. If I was to come up on the toms and play really open around, like it's not the same thing as when you go and like you're really digging into it, you know.
Right.
And those notes are really like if you listen to Nils when like some of those live dark funeral things and listen to him playing the toms, like he really digs into the drum head. People talk about, oh, he plays so hard. He doesn't really play that hard. He just digs in. Like the sound is, he's choking the drum before it ever even has a chance to do anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And that's inherent of his natural playing.
Yeah.
You know, somebody else can come up and play that drum kit and it's not going to sound like that. You know?
What a trip. Right. So I always thought that too. I always thought like seeing people play like, oh, he plays really hard, but it's more maybe sometimes in his hands.
It's more the conviction of what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and the awareness of like, you know, as drummers, like we're different from a lot of other musicians because like when you like, say for instance, when you look at a piece of music, right, and you see all these black dots on it, like for drummers, that's all we ever really think about is the black dot, right? So if you ask a drummer to play a 16th note, just one, right? Okay, so play an 8th note, just one. Play a whole note.
Yeah.
A dotted 8th. Right. So what makes those notes mean anything is not the actual black dot, but it's the space in between that black dot to the next black dot. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where your identity as a player lies, because the note is just the note. Right.
Oh, yeah, man. I love it.
So like,
I love it.
So you as an individual in that space until the next note. And like, especially drummers, and I guess guitar players too, when you start getting into notation and stuff, like you're so concerned about the black note that you're losing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you're losing what it is that the purpose that you're there to begin with. Right.
Yep. That makes sense.
And that's just that's what I find is missing, you know, from everything's put on a grid and made perfect. And I mean, I can't tell you how many drummers that have gotten, you know, all of my friends basically like, dude, they fucking put my shit on a grid and made it perfect and it doesn't sound real. And people are going to be like, that's not real. And as every drummer friend I have, after every record they record, they call me bitching about the same thing.
Right.
I mean, Casey was the same way going, and I think a lot of it had to do with you. Probably was like Casey was just like in the fucking cryptic implosion thing, going like, don't fucking don't fuck with my shit.
We left a lot of that unedited for sure. So you know,
there's a vibe about it.
Obviously, I've done stuff that's been edited and unedited, so I've done both. But on the newest Odious, actually, I did it totally unedited, just because I was like, fuck, man, it's been 13 years, and like, I'm not going to compete with all these double kick like 300 beats a minute. Like, I'm just gonna do it raw, man. I don't even care. And if people don't like it, it's
Cryptic's
fine.
raw as fuck, dude. I just
that's a lot of that's just totally
to a couple of Cryptic songs, and I'm like, dude, we are all. There's parts where you can kind of, if you really zone in, like there's a 3 vocal parts and one starts earlier than the other 2, and you're just like, this was us.
Like Anthony does it all live.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like everything, like we were all in you could tell that raw aspect was still there, dude.
But I wanted to make a point just for a minute, like I've seen, of course, as you have, Derek, and all of us, like so many different drummers live, and I've seen people who really shred that double, like Longstreth and stuff, and he plays with feel and love, and you know, he's amazing and stuff. But like, you know, everyone's now like a blast machine and doing the doubles, and it's like everyone just pulls it out now, like it's the new trick out of the hat, you know. and that's great and stuff.
It's because it's easy to do.
I'm like slightly jealous because I can't do it, so it's cool.
But it's easy to do.
Yeah,
I could literally show you in a 10-minute.
I'm sure
Skype
you can
session.
fucking do it. Yeah. No, I need to just figure out the. Yeah, I can do doubles with my right foot, but my left foot just is not down.
10-minute Skype session. I'll have
let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm setting it up. There.
I'm loving it. But I wanted to say just to bring it back, like, dude, like people, like it's like, okay, like just me, like watching you when I was 17, for example, I was like, I had no idea that someone could play drums like that. Like it like blew me away. I could not believe like how, and like those, like doing the single strokes and doing it all, like it just all right there in front of me. Like it was just so sick. And like another thought I had was like when we played the Maryland Death Fest, the only time with Odious, we kind of played a bad set, and I like played way too fast and I was sloppy.
We played
whatever.
Good the rest of
the point is, I was super burnt, and then at the end of the set, all of a sudden I'm sitting behind the stage, and Dave Coolross just walks up and plays this set with like Malevolent Creation, and like I was like, oh, that's how it's done. Like I get it, and it was just like you, Roddy. It was just like tearing into it, dude. And people need to, and then also with you with all the Tom stuff, like I've seen you twice with Hate Eternal. I saw you like later also at the Galaxy, like I don't know, two or 3 years later with on that tour. And dude, seeing you live, man, like did you have the 20-inch kicks? Is that what you were using?
Yeah.
That's
I'm
right.
5'10", so I'm not, I'm not the tallest guy. So I just always felt.
Hey, dude, I'm only 5'7", dude. So
there you go.
We're fucking. We're
good. You'd be comfortable on 20-inch kick drums.
People just don't know what it's like, dude. Seeing like the Obscure Terror like live right there, just like
that was so. I mean, dude, that was fun. Fun times.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
It's definitely fun. A lot of great memories.
As a person who doesn't dig deep on most of the bands, Derek Roddy's name has always been a name that I remember when it comes to like thinking of the quintessential death metal drummer. I know now we're getting to the part where we're just gonna keep on fucking tickling you, Derek, right now, but that's exactly what we're doing right now. And when I was young, hearing Black Seeds, now that I know that you weren't performing, but still hearing Black Seeds, like some of the most extreme drumming I had ever heard at that time in my life was your drumming. So dude, here, if you would have, I'm talking to my 16-year-old self in my head right now, like, dude, I'm interviewing the guy that you're listening to right now. And that
if we're going to dish out compliments, this is the compliment as a non-drummer, is that being on tour with so many other drummers and not knowing and people and me thinking like, oh, this guy I'm on tour with, this other band, that's the crazy drummer. They're like, that's not, like Roddy's like way sicker. Like they would always be like they would always throw your name.
Oh, that's funny.
I know. Like, wow. Like as a person that doesn't really know, has never can't barely keep a fucking Green Day beat, like and talking to other drummers and having no knowledge on it. Speaking to other drummers, like your name would come up like pretty much like 93% of the time would be like, oh, well, Derek Roddy is the best death metal drummer. So,
that's hilarious.
And it would be like my favorite, my favorite like drummers I would talk to, and they would say your name like all the time. So like coming from like a non-drumming background and just like collecting data, like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah.
That would be like your name would come up like as like I'm like, well, who's the best then? Because I would like watch a really crazy drummer live on some humongous tour and like be like fucking mesmerized by him. And I would talk to the drummer, and they'd just be like, "Oh, Derek Roddy's sick." Like
that's so funny, I mean, and I mean, dude, that's flattering as hell too. I mean, but I think that comes back down to kind of what we were talking about earlier, like projecting who you are as a player to the people, like connecting, being more concerned about what you sound like to your audience than you do with yourself, and that's something that I never thought about what I sounded like to myself. I always thought about what do I sound like to the people in the back of the room.
Yeah.
That's
exactly. Like that was the thing that was always on my mind. And I think that maybe was what made the difference that made all of those people say that,
Totally, dude. You're playing to
I mean,
everybody.
maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm just taking a guess, but.
No, for sure. Yeah, we're all doing what has already been done.
Oh, dude, so I remember watching Pete, and thinking to myself, like, man, like, is it possible to do anything like really above what he's doing? I mean, the answer was no, and it's still no. Can you do more of it? Yeah. Can you do it with more color? Yeah. Can you take it further than he took it? No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is strange how that is for a lot of different things too.
Yeah. It's the same thing with guitar players. Like, dude, I was watching this, and there's a lot of, great guitar players online nowadays. But, I find myself not trusting what I'm watching because I know like how easy it is to fake a lot of stuff. And then I went back and I was watching Crying in the Rain, Whitesnake with Adrian Vandenberg. Like there's a solo in there and it's like from 1987 and he shreds every motherfucker that exists today. In 1980, I mean, dude, it's so ridiculous, and it's live, and it's coming off of a console, like just right, left, stereo, the audio coming off this thing, and he shreds every dude that plays today a new asshole.
God,
you know what I mean? And it's ridiculous.
I would like my number one thing right now, hearing you talk right now, and the past guests and stuff, because my favorite like guitar player, right, like a new guitar player, is that guy Wes Howe from Alluvial. But he's the same thing
Shout
that you're
West,
saying.
Dude.
He was the same thing that you're saying. He was like talking about all the YouTube guitar players and stuff. And dude will just like has this soul to him that like it's like Dimebag meets like some like fucking crazy progressive shredding jazz guy. He's got
doing
these,
a
like,
lot of
mixtures.
loops, not in a bad way, but we're doing a lot of loops because we're touching on a lot of the same things with all these different. It's making us think of all these different people.
But now he's like releasing like today or yesterday, he was like talking about all these people like miming over fucking shit and not playing it, blah blah.
It's in that dude's pick. It's in
he was
that
embarrassed
pick,
to
dude.
like he's embarrassed to even like do a YouTube video. He's like, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be part of that. But like now he's like in a amazing. His band is fucking amazing, Alluvial. And he literally now he's posting his solos just to he's doing the solo to it. And it's only him playing. Yeah, just a click and him doing the solo to it. Nice. And it's like nailing it. And it's like, fuck, man. See? Like that's like that kind of shit where you're just like, that's the gangster move. It's like as a guitar player, like that's the most scary gangster move that he's doing. There's no rhythm track to him. There's no drum to it. He's just going to a click and doing the full solo perfectly. And I'm just like, all right, well, touche, brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
hard.
Very impressive. And the same kind of thing you're saying. He said the same thing, just as far as the recording and all the crazy fucking shit that's going on. And he's kind of the old school. He's a little older than us. He's and basically just all the editing and stuff like that. He's like trying to go to a new level and be like an actual fucking he's done solos for Marty Friedman now, and he's doing solos for like all these like humongous people.
As a real artist, don't you want to actually represent yourself?
I mean, people want to.
But no, people don't. No, people want to sound like other people.
They want to represent. They want to make sure.
Do you call that a real artist then?
Well, I mean. That's the differentiation. That's the differential.
And I'm not trying. I'm not. Whoever's
because with the samples and everything that happens with production, See, that's the thing. Like every record nowadays has the same snare drum sample. And like when I grew up, Deicide was different than Malevolent, was different than Obituary, was different than Morbid Angel, was different than Asphyx, was different than Entombed, was different than
because they had no other choice.
Yeah, they were just themselves. They couldn't be anybody but themselves.
Exactly.
Now on recordings, you can be anybody you want to be. Totally. You can use this guy's fucking preset for his guitar sound. You can use this guy's kick drum sound and that guy's snare drum sound
or whatever the fuck.
And this turned it. And I never thought that I would see the day that metal would become more fake than pop music. You know what I mean? A style of music that's supposed to be
right now, dude.
A style of music that's supposed to be so real and so honest has turned so fake, and it's half the reason I don't identify with anything new anymore. Because again, I'm not hearing an honest representation of what the band is offering.
It's out there. You got to dig for it.
You got to dig.
No, there is, but it's a lot. There's not a lot of it in the metal.
It's few and far between, though. Is what Derek said.
Yeah.
It's definitely not exactly. It's not like the big stuff that's like on all the.
There's only an X amount of portals in the world. Exactly. You know what I mean? And even Immolation, who kept it true to form as long as they could. Now is riddled with sampled drums.
Are they really? Okay, I just saw them live.
The last couple records.
I haven't listened to anything past.
They were my favorite death metal band ever. No criticizing to them, but I would rather hear what they were doing.
Totally on the drum side of thing, and like seeing them live. I just saw them at PsychoFest a few weeks ago, and I was like, because I always put them kind of. I don't know why I do this, but I always kind of put them as like, yeah, they're fucking sick, but not like they're fucking sick. And I went and saw them live at PsychoFest, and I was like, whoa, that performance that they put on though, just that live performance.
Oh, they're great.
The bald guitar player, fucking forget his name every time. But that guy fucking
the Murray clone.
The Murray clone. That guy fucking that guy is insane live. His stage presence and stuff.
Oh, the whole band. Yeah, I mean they're great.
Oh, dude. Seeing him imagine seeing them at the Pound. Did you see him at the Pound?
Yeah, a few times.
Oh, dude, it was fucking I was at church, dude.
Yeah.
It literally was like the Holy Spirit's in my body.
No, he wasn't actually at church. He was.
I might actually lose you guys. I got like 4% battery left.
All right, let's wrap this shit up.
Yeah,
I don't have
dude. You have something? Okay.
I think I have a charger here.
It's all right. Hey,
if I lose you, I'll lose you.
Hanging with us, dude.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, he's at 4% and has no charger. So
what number? What's our time right now, Casey?
A little over 2 hours.
Yeah, we're 12:06. Yes.
All right, dude. Well, your wife was hitting you up a while ago about dinner. We can wrap this right now.
We eat late. So.
All right, it's all good. Well, either way, dude. I mean, you can hang with us Derek. As long as, dude, you're Derek Roddy, dude. I'm not gonna fucking say that.
I'm always game to come back and do whatever. And hey, look, the offer still stands once I get the new cameras to do the Serpents live stream.
Oh, we're so nice. So
nice. Cool.
Can we do like a Cali Death exclusive deal?
Yeah.
Shit.
We have like an online party.
Oh, dude, that would be amazing, dude.
Don't threaten us with a good time.
Cool. Yeah, don't threaten me.
I will definitely be buying twice as many beers.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Thing.
Well, Derek, I know you only have like 3 or 4% left on your laptop, so I don't want to fucking lose you in the middle of it.
I'm down to 3 now.
Yeah, down to 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so Derek, if you had to pick just one current drummer alive that's your favorite drummer in the world, like mine, I guess I would say Vinny Colaiuta. I don't know.
That's every drummer.
I know.
Yeah, dude, hang on. I don't know if you'll even be able to hear this. And hopefully
put it up to the mic.
I also wanted to bring up your drum battle with Eric. I just remembered your drum battle with Eric Moore is the sickest thing ever, dude.
Yeah, in Russia.
Like the Eric Moore, Alex Bent guy?
Yeah,
that was
I
fun.
sent that shit to you, bro.
Alex Bent was homies with... I'm sorry, dude.
No, that's all good.
That was in Moscow.
Dude.
That was in Moscow. It was pretty funny.
It was in Moscow?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, Alex is homie for the.
Alex is homie. We were they said Alex is homie.
All right. All right. So I don't know if you. So do you guys know who Todd Zuckerman is?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
He's a drummer for Styx, right?
No, he's great. He's awesome.
All right, so him and I have been like really good friends for years. Right?
Oh, sick! Yeah.
And he called me one day out of the blue and left me a voicemail message. Like one of his favorite drummers, obviously ever, is Vinny.
Yeah.
You need to, like I said, ask any drummer. It's going to be Vinny.
Yeah.
And so I was unaware of this, but Fred Armisen had done this special called Stand Up for Drummers
at Great American Music Hall.
It was like a comedy thing or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
It was at the one that I was talking about in the beginning of the episode. But yeah, go ahead.
Right. So at the end of that, they got Clive Burr and Vinny Colaiuta are at LA Drum Shop, and they're trying to sell Fred Armisen like a bunch of drum accessory shit, right? And one of the things that he tries to sell is the Modern Drummer Festival DVD with me and Todd on it, right?
Oh, really?
And he's like, look, no, seriously, you got to buy this. It's got Todd Zuckerman and Derek Roddy on it. Vinny Colaiuta says this in the documentary, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but I'm going to try to make this work, and you'll laugh your ass off because it's hilarious.
I can't wait.
Hold on.
Derek, hey, Todd Zuckerman, how you doing, man? About
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
13. p.m. on February 7th. If you're in Florida, I don't know where in the world you could be. Anyway, Fred Armisen did this thing on Netflix. It's a comedy. It's called Stand Up for Drummers. And this guy from Italy wrote me saying that Vinnie Colaiuta dropped my name in the end credits. I'm like, what? So I just went, I haven't seen the whole thing. I went to the end, and it's Vinnie and Clem Berg at the Pro Drum Shop trying to sell a bunch of stuff to Fred Armisen. And it's a whole montage thing, and then you just hear in Vinnie's voice, like listing out drummers, like who use whatever he's trying to sell. And you hear Todd Zuckerman, Derek Roddy. So we both got name dropped by Vinnie Colaiuta and Fred Armisen's comedy thing in the end. I thought I should tell you. And maybe that person should be me, unless you know already. Anyway, it's kind of a buzz. Fucking weird.
So, dude, I've totally seen that special, and I totally that's wiped from my memory that you dropped in it, dude.
Yeah,
I totally watch it because it literally.
I'm gonna watch it again tonight. Maybe
watch it.
It's after the credits at the end, like so you may not have even seen it. It's just like Vinny. It's like a fuck off kind of thing, and they're like trying to sell
it's in there. So everybody wants to watch this. It's Fred Armisen from SNL Portlandia. He's a drummer, and it was a drum specific comedy special.
Naveen's at the taping, by the way.
And oh shit, dude! So it's at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, and he literally set up drum sets throughout the whole entire bottom floor of it, and you can't come in unless you are a drummer, and you have to prove it. They had a snare of the fucking venue. And you had to really be able to play a beat in order to get into the fucking taping. It's fucking amazing. So it's a bunch of drummers inside Great American Music Hall, dude. Stand-up comedy special geared around being a drummer, dude. Please watch it, dude. And having Derek Roddy name dropped at the end, there's your bonus right there.
Yeah, and Todd was like, he was so ecstatic about it when he called me. You could hear it in his voice. He was like, "Oh, it's totally a buzz."
And that was fucking hilarious, dude.
I called him back and we laughed about it for a good minute. Like, man, if I ever would have thought that Vinnie Colaiuta would have name dropped
Jesus,
me, you know what I mean? Like, dude, that's like ridiculous.
So I didn't actually. But last point, real quick, before we wrap this up, is that I didn't know that every drummer's favorite drummer is Vinnie. I literally just pulled up a YouTube thing of Vinnie Colaiuta. I'm gonna listen to all of it, but that's like every drummer's favorite drummer.
I mean, it's just he's the most. Dude, I'll give you. All right, so he did a Megadeth record and a Faith Hill record in the same day.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What?
So that just gives you an idea of like. He's probably played on more records. I mean, there's probably only 3 or 4 or 5 other drummers in history that have been. He's probably been on 5,000 records or more. I mean, it's ridiculous.
God damn, dude, that's like Sly and Robbie. Sly and Robbie's like 120,000 rhythms, dude.
Commercials and all kinds of stuff, man. Like you've heard him and you probably didn't even know you were listening to him.
Yeah, he's a gangster, dude. Just check it out. Yeah, he's great.
Probably the most proficient recording drummer in history. I mean, he and his Rolodex of shit that's in his head that he can just pull out. It's beyond like the vocabulary is beyond like what most people would ever gather in their lifetime. I mean,
so it's mental amazingness along with his obviously playing. So he's got this like retention of music.
He's one of the few that has both. You know, he's got like he can play anything, but he knows when not to. You know. And he's all, remember what we were talking about before with the space?
Yep.
Like he lives in that space between those notes. You know, that's what makes him so great. And it doesn't matter what style of music he's playing.
That really
the one thing you want to look up if you really want to watch him is with Chick Corea at the Blue Note in Tokyo with Vinny.
I'm gonna watch it right now. I'm gonna watch it after
just type in Chick Corea, Blue Note Tokyo, Vinnie Colaiuta, and just watch any of that. And that was a fill-in gig that he did for Dave Weckl. Weckle's wife went into labor early, and he had to fly out. So Vinny flew in, like literally got out of bed, got on a flight, flew to Tokyo, and did this fucking gig.
Wow!
And it's all on video. I mean,
is it John Patitucci on bass?
Yep, John Patitucci on bass.
Fuck yeah! I got it pulled up.
Yeah. Watch that. That's like that right there alone is probably some of the best drumming ever filmed.
Damn.
Dude,
okay. All right, man. You said it, man. I'm just
ridiculous.
There's so much in this episode. I think that a lot of people are gonna go dig and find.
Well, I mean, they just
a lot of
Derek Roddy just said
episode.
that. Fucking, this is the best drumming ever filmed. I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, to know the circumstances and to what dude's playing with a cigarette hanging half out of his mouth. Like,
yep, I can see it
reading.
Right there.
He's reading the fucking piano chart.
What? Fuck.
Yeah.
You know, chick give him the fucking piano chart. He's like,
sure, just fucking.
Just, I mean, in his pajamas. Like Chick and John are in like, you know, a suit and shit. Vinny's up there in like sweatpants and a muscle shirt. Like, you know, I mean, it's insane.
It's in Tokyo.
Absolutely Tokyo. Yeah.
Yep, 92. Got it. Pulled up.
Yep.
Locked and
absolutely insane, man.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, this is awesome, dude.
Yeah, this is cool, man.
This is like one of the first episodes I want to go back to figure out all the gems I think we talked about tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, this one doesn't fit. This one doesn't work. I have a plug here, but it doesn't work. All right, I'm going to lose you guys, so I'll get you later.
That's all good. Perfect time to wrap it up, dude.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
So
Derek,
fun, man.
dude, you are always welcome to come back, dude.
Let's do that live thing. That's live thing.
As well as I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll do that. That'd be cool.
Had a blast tonight, dude.
Yeah, man. Totally.
This is a monumental thing for our channel, our show. So thank you so much for, boosting us, giving us, dude. It's funny. We're gonna get a Derek Roddy bump. Our show's gonna get a bump versus.
I don't know about that. Bump. You might lose viewers.
Dude, hell no, dude. Dude, like I said, you are the quintessential death metal drummer. When somebody thinks of a death metal drummer, you are that dude. So thank you so much, dude, for giving us all the greatness for so long.
Respect, dude.
Mad respect, bro. Definitely. Mad respect. And
same here. Keep it alive.
That's what we're doing with this, dude. We want to fucking keep this shit going, dude. So thanks you.
Yeah.
All you people that still are here listening to me babble right now. And we'll see you next week with a fucking pretty big deal, if I might say so myself.
It's a big deal.
Let's just say it's our first year anniversary of the show, so we might be bringing it very, very hard. But thank you so much, subscribers. Hit up Derek. Anywhere people can buy merch.
All right, DerekRoddyLive.com, SerpentsRise.com. But of course, catch me on Facebook and Instagram, all that crap too. So
cool.
Sick, dude. We're a year into this, and we still don't do that in the beginning. It's like,
yeah, man.
We need to do that in the fucking beginning, dude.
Hey, KC, hit me up. You give me a text message up. We'll hook up later.
Oh hell
great.
yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah, dude.
Can you record all that?
Sounds good.
Love you guys.
Love
you. All of you guys. We'll see you next week.
Fuck yeah.
Later, guys. Thanks.
Later, man.
Peace.
Fuck
Later.
Yeah, man.